Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Indians, Outworlders, people of all species from all realms, welcome back to The Lost, and to the first part of the Katana Retrospective. I'm Shad, he's Razor. Behind the scenes editing all of our garbage out is Smokeman. You may have noticed that we've uploaded this at the exact same time as part 1 of our Mileena retrospective. That's right, we've had a great 2 for Tuesday. If indeed it is Tuesday when we upload this. I don't know.
Probably not Tuesday.
For me, it was Tuesday. Fuck you. Leave me alone.
All right, Bison.
All right, so Kitana. We've got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Do we?
I don't know if the phrase "a lot" really captures the enormity of the task at hand.
Folks, I want you to know that in order to get this out in time for Mileena's launch, these 2 episodes, I'm recording this shit after getting a flu shot this morning. I am not doing well, so you better love me. Don't ask for much, but do we have any interesting perspectives on how Katana first came to be from John Tobias?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, we do. Those of you who follow Tobias on Twitter may have seen in the past that he has, on at least one occasion, I think twice, actually posted his old notebook pages from way back in the early 90s when they were developing Mk4. And included in those notes is an NPC who is going to be named Kitsune. And her backstory was supposed to be that she was Shang Tsung's daughter, and she would fall in love with Liu Kang and turn on her father and help Liu win. And this ended up on the cutting room floor, and later became Kitana in MK2. So, you know, over the years, people have always debated, when did the Liu Kang Kitana romance idea start? Did the movie invent it? A lot of people think it did. As it turns out, no. It was Tobias's plan all along. And that's why, Liu Kang is mentioned in all of Kitana's arcade endings, and Kitana is mentioned in all of Liu Kang's arcade endings.
You could probably
there was a plan, you guys.
You could probably fill a small book with everything that Tobias had behind the scenes that seems to have been fleshed out in the first MK movie. You really could.
Yeah. I mean, it's surprising to people, I think, when they find out how much, because usually when the creators of a thing, it's adapted, they get a consultant role in the credits, and it's they didn't listen to a single word we said. They just went off and made their own fucking movie. Apparently, for the MK1 film, they actually listened to John.
Wonder if that's got anything to do at all with why it's so faithful to the material and why it's just so
infinitely
watchable.
I wonder if there's a connection between being loyal to the material and making a good film.
That sounds like bullshit to me.
That's the reason it's the only good video game movie ever made.
Now, Silent Hill was alright, but that's for another time.
I actually have never seen Silent Hill.
You should. Do yourself a favor. It's not perfect, but I rather enjoy it. Don't watch the sequel. Just don't.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not that well versed on the lore of the Silent Hill games, so I'm not sure if I'd be able to evaluate how close it is. I'm vaguely familiar with the plot of Silent Hill 2, but it's not exactly something that I am a scholar on like I am Mortal Kombat.
Well, long story short, they just changed the little girl's dad to, I think it was her mom. Not too much else. It's kind of a mishmash between 1 and a little bit of 3. Mostly 1. 2 has nothing to do with it at all. 2 is its own self-contained story. They can't make a movie out of 2 because it's fine the way it is. It's one of those things where it's if you touch it, they'll come for your family. But anyway, Katana.
Fair enough. Yeah, so Katana, and I mean you can see the parallels. We're originally going to be Shang Tsung's daughter, ended up Shao Kahn's daughter. going to turn on him in favor of Liu Kang, turns on Quan in favor of Liu Kang. The plan was always there. And there's like a little design, like a little doodle of what Kitsune was going to look like, and it's basically an Asian lady with her hair in a bun wearing a kimono. If you imagine it in blue, it's not that far off from those Psylocke, Elektra style costumes they had in MK2. But I think the curious thing to me is how they came up with the name, only because the entire fucking world seems intent on constantly misspelling Kitana as Cutord with an A. And, I mean, if you ask Tobias where the name came from, well, he was going to call her Kitsune, which is Japanese for fox. And so he combined Kitsune with Katana sword and got Kitana with an I.
Well, I think the results speak for themselves, and it's one of those situations where replacing a C with a K is not what happened, and we're better for it. So
I think it's interesting because I have seen people actually be named Kitana or Mileena who are born after 1993.
I don't like this world we're living in, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. Why would you name your child Mileena? Okay.
I don't know. I guess Mileena might have been like already a real world name because I've seen it spelled different, like Melina and stuff like that. I think it might be like a Hispanic, like a real person's name.
Meliana, perhaps? I don't know. It might be a bastardization of an actual name. That sounds realistic. And
Yeah.
granted, I was only 12 years old or so at the time when I first played MK2, but feel pretty certain that Mileena didn't exist as a name before that game came out. But
Well,
anywho.
Whatever the case.
So I developed a crush on Kitana and Zamir very early on. Thank you. If you're out there and you're listening, I'm so sorry you heard that. If it's any consolation, you can come to Montreal and kick my ass. I know you can.
No,
She's still doing it.
I still believe that one day there's going to be a Kombat Con again, and we're gonna go. And I'm sure she'll be there signing autographs because all the blue screen people still live in Chicago, go to that thing when they have it.
Can't blame them. They got a good reputation.
You can apologize to her in person.
She's not listening to this shit. She's doing fitness stuff.
There's no fucking way.
Hell no. She probably just goes right home, and all the other actors just go right home after that whole thing's done. First thing they all do, take a shower.
You know what? I bet if we asked, we could probably get somebody like Rich DeVizio to be on the show. And after we put it up, they still wouldn't listen to their own fucking appearance.
Are we paying them anything? No. Sound of a dial tone. So, Kitana's MK2 bio. Her beauty hides her true role as personal assassin for Shao Kahn. Seen talking to an Earthrealm warrior, her motives have come under suspicion by her twin sister, Mileena. But only Kitana knows her own true intentions. So right here, I think...
there's something about the bios and endings in MK2 that I want to point out that I didn't actually ever notice until very recently as I was like rereading through them.
That being?
In MK2, it's not actually ever mentioned that they were raised by Shao Kahn. They're never called his daughters until MK3.
I actually wanted to talk about that a little bit, both here and in the Mileena retrospective. There's a lot of kerfluffle about, like, what exactly MK9 got wrong and why people were pissed off about it, because the impression was always that they'd been familiar with each other, if not had been raised by each other. The being raised by Konbit, that comes probably most from the Malibu comics, because one of the very best issues of that comic is the Katana Mileena one-shot. And I think that influenced a lot of people to believe that they'd grown up together.
Well, that was certainly the first thing in pop culture that really connected the dots between Shao Kahn and the Ninja Girls.
Yes.
But right away in MK3, all, you know, in Sindel's bio and ending, and then of course in Ultimate when Kitana and Mileena were added, that game does confirm Shao Kahn is their father, at least adoption-wise.
Right.
It's never mentioned anywhere in MK2. So the fact that Malibu, like, I can't imagine Malibu came up with the idea.
No,
Like,
I feel like they were probably working off notes that John might have given them as well. If they didn't,
yeah, because I feel like
if they didn't, it's yet another thing that, you know, came from outside first and they got
I
incorporated
feel
into
like
the games.
even
No big
in
deal.
spite of Malibu, like, it was somehow common knowledge, even though the game doesn't say it, that Shao Kahn is their father, quote unquote.
It seemed like right from the outset, yeah.
And it's like I think it was like in like interviews with John in like EGM and GamePro, were like just articles and stuff were all making sure to mention it, because even though it wasn't in the game, it was somehow something people were supposed to know about these characters. And I think that's sort of one of those instances of Tobias just didn't have enough space to put the text he wanted in, so he found other ways.
More than likely. There is room for them to have spent some time together, despite the fact that they didn't grow up together.
Well, I mean,
Shang
you look
Tsung is 1,000 years old, according to the MK trading cards, which at that time was the
Also,
only bit of
his,
info we had.
Yeah, I guess Shang didn't have a bio in the comic, did he?
Not specifically, no.
Because I remember there being like height, weight, age text for him as though he did have a bio, but I can never remember where it's from. So I guess I must have seen the trading card, and I think it's also
Probably.
because those bios were repeated at the end of The Journey Begins, as you can see in our
Yes.
in our commentary for that. We mention it, and Shang's age being 1,000 comes up there too.
Yeah. So, while Katana is 10,000 years, Mileena is at the very most, maybe 900 if you're being generous.
Well, to be fair, Shang's age is also like a matter of simple logic. Because, like, obviously the reason Tobias made him 1,000 is because 10 tournaments takes 500 years. And Shang has actually seen 20 tournaments. Like, he won 9 of his own, and Kung Lao beat him at the 10th. And then he saw Goro win 9, and Liu Kang beats him at the 10th. So Shang Tsung is 20 tournaments old. That's 1,000 years.
Does make sense. I feel like if you really wanted to have Katana and Mileena grow up together, the easiest thing to do would probably be to retcon Shang's backstory so that he is much older. Spent some time in Outworld,
could do that.
Learn the dark arts, then Khan trusted him to start.
See, I don't have a problem with Mileena, like Katana being 10,000 and Mileena only being 1,000. That doesn't bother me. And I know it bothers some people because they're like, well, then when Katana met Mileena, how would she believe that this is her long lost sister? Like, how could they convince her? What if they did a shitty job convincing her? What if that's part of when she started to doubt?
That's actually my thought as well. It's like, hey, here's your crazy sister. She's a little bit, weird. Tends to eat people. Don't take off her mask. Don't ask her to take off her mask ever. Please don't. This is your sister. Well,
I also imagine like Katana didn't have to start wearing a ninja mask until Mileena was introduced, and they went, look, your sister has this embarrassing deformity. We're gonna have you both wear masks. Nobody will ever know the difference. Because they're supposed to like dress the same as twins to like confuse the enemy. Which one am I fighting? Even though, blue and purple are not the same color and fans and size are not the same object. Close though. It's close. Blue and purple are close, especially in the dark, which is when ninjas are assassinating people.
It's got that Leonardo Donatello sync thing going on.
Yeah. Especially like in MK2, it was a darker shade of blue and a purpler shade of purple. Now they're always like light blue and pink, and that bothers me.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. Thank you. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, to be Katana should be dark blue.
It's trying to be.
I don't like the fucking powder blue. Like they're trying to make her look more like a princessy character. Like
I think that started with Deadly Alliance. Actually, she was lighter than normal.
In
now.
Deadly Alliance, she had also a purple outfit.
I think of her alternate.
The light blue actually starts in Ultimate.
I'm looking at the two of them now. It just kind of depends
Mileena
on the
didn't
lighting.
start wearing pink until Deception.
Yes, it's a little lighter in Ultimate. Probably a very gradual change that wasn't intentional.
Yeah, it was gradual, but it still shouldn't have happened. Like, they should have stayed with a shade of blue that is close to purple, in my opinion. The twins should be close enough that a stupid person could be confused.
On that topic, I'm glad we have a Mileena that looks like Katana again in 11. It's nice.
The face is, I mean, it's a more distinct face because she's now an ethnicity, I guess I would say.
The point is, they are clones. They should look like clones, at least from the nose up.
I think. I mean, the thing that was throwing it off before was that they gave Mileena those yellow eyes.
Yeah, and there was that.
I mean, her eyes are still yellow. They're just darker, so it's harder to tell in 11.
I would honestly wager that the whole thing's... They started really diverging look-wise, starting with, I think it was MK Gold out of all things.
Well, yeah, MK Gold, Mileena has white eyes because she's come back from the dead.
It's not just that. Like, her entire jaw structure, there's basically something going on under there that ain't right.
Yeah, they did start making the shape of her jaw more like reflect that.
Yeah.
You can tell even when the mask is on, her mouth is weird.
Can't just pin that one on NRS. It's been going on for a while.
I mean, I'm fine with that aspect of it. It's just
I like them to look as close as possible together. I really do.
I do want them to look like twins, but again, the eyes bug me more than the jaw, and I don't.
It's a combination.
I don't have a problem with them being yellow. I just wish it was a different kind of, like, I don't need them to be like slit lizard eyes. That's unnecessary. If it were me, I would apply the yellow by giving Mileena like Kitana the same eyes as Katana, but I'd make the whites a little yellow, like jaundice, like there's something sickly and diseased about it.
Yeah, that'd work.
That's the way I would do it. I wouldn't go with the fucking glowing lizard eyes. That's unnecessary. And I never liked the Tarkatans having those slit eyes anyway. I think Baraka's eyes should be like glassy reddish black.
If it was up to me, we'd just go
solid void, you know?
If it was up to me, like we would just go straight back to like having characters have straight blank or straight red eyes, you know?
I mean, Baraka's eyes have looked wrong to me since Gold.
Yeah. Maybe they resurrected him too. I don't know.
Yeah, so as far as like the whole idea of Kitana being introduced to her twin sister while she's already nearly an adult, while she's like 9,000 years old. In my head, it always read as, this is your long-lost twin. Something happened and we found her in the wilderness and her face is fucked up and we don't want anybody to know. You know, you two are supposed to be identical twins, and we're going to use it as a weapon when we send you as a team on assassination missions, so you're both going to wear masks.
Why does she eat people?
I've had people ask me online, do you think Kitana didn't know Mileena had those teeth? And I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind? How could you keep that a secret?
Separate chambers.
You think Mileena wore the mask 24/7 even at home? I knew about the teeth. She was told a story, I'm sure.
I think that people like get that because the wording of her MK2 ending, as a matter of fact. Through her years of working as an assassin, Katana has learned many secrets, especially about her own past. she finds that Mileena is not her twin, but a grotesque clone created by Shang Tsung. And you can read that sentence as being, "Oh, I never knew she had a fucked up mouth this entire time." Wow,
That's a dumb way to read it.
It kind of is, but
I can't. I can't.
You have to
like
to recognize that, like, there was limited space. If Tobias could have fleshed that out better, he would have.
Look, if you're gonna go like, oh, she just found out she's a grotesque clone, the key word isn't grotesque. The key word is clone. She was already grotesque.
Pretty well, yeah. There's also this little line. She learns that her parents were former rulers of the Outworld overthrown by Shao Kahn. So you could take that line and possibly draw the conclusion that she thought Shao Kahn was a real father up until this point.
I suppose. It's not specifically said that Kitana is a princess and that Khan raised her until Sindel's backstory is revealed in the next game.
Little details. Anyhow.
But obviously Malibu beat them to that. And I would agree that the Katana and Mileena issue of the Malibu comic is, first of all, it's probably the most famous issue of the Malibu comic. I think it's the only one that's really strongly penetrated into mainstream consciousness of the fandom.
I actually did not realize it. I've been like taking its statement that they kind of like knew each other and grew up together as like complete and total canon until 9 made me really sit back and think about it. Like, wait, that doesn't make sense. They grew up together, didn't they? The Malibu comic said, wait a damn minute.
I mean, the MK2, the bio specifically says that the two of them were like raised as sisters, and she finds out that she's a clone. Like, she met her as sister, and the clone information came later. That doesn't happen the way it goes in 9. That's not possible the way it goes in 9.
Oh, I am not saying that 9 was handling things correctly, no matter what you're reading. No, it made me think and reflect back on it a bit.
Like while we're like fine-tooth combing the wording of things, I want to specifically point out the ending says that it was Kitana's. She found out on her own during her assassination missions the truth of things, and she was like keeping it to herself that she knew and waiting for the right time to turn on Khan. That's like important, because if you compare it to the way things go in 9, Kitana doesn't know shit all the way up to the tournament, and Raiden tells her stuff, and fucking Shao Kahn tells her to her face, "I'm not your dad, I killed your real dad." What?
Ugh.
Why?
All right.
First of all, let's just take the part where that's a retcon. Let's forget that for a moment. In the moment, like if 9 was a self-contained story, if MK9 was the first Mortal Kombat game, where is the logic in Shao Kahn telling this person to her face the truth? For what fucking purpose would you do that?
I'm not going to sit here and defend it. I'm not. So, continuing her MK2 ending. Determined to take back what is rightfully hers, she must defeat Khan himself. She does so by entering the tournament. That's a gimme. She retakes her parents' castle and restores the Outworld back into a realm of nobility. Again, this dates back from before we had any kind of confirmation or inclination to know that Outworld and Edenia were the same place, or
yeah, they didn't start using the word Edenia until 3.
Yeah. And
they didn't establish that Edenia was a separate realm that was merged with Outworld
until Deadly Alliance.
Yeah.
Also, it should be known, as we learned this recently, the castle that Kitana is posing in front of in her MK2 ending is a straight screen grab from Conan the Destroyer.
It sure is.
Go look it up. It's fucking hilarious.
I mean, clip art wasn't, super available in the 90s. You had
This
to
is
you had to get your pictures where you could find them.
this is less questionable than like Kung Lao's ancestor looking a hell of a lot like Mickey Rooney. Anyway, Kitana was an early favorite of mine, just to share some memories.
So here's the thing. The reason that Kitana specifically finding out things on her own, like doing detective work on her missions, or like stumbling across secrets all on her lonesome instead of being told stuff by Raiden and Shao Kahn. The reason that's important to me is because there's this little concept you may have heard of called agency.
We'll get to
And
that
it's
when we get to the
fictional
Sindel
character. It's especially important with like female characters because they aren't always treated well in fiction. Agency is when you actually have control over your own destiny and you aren't somebody else's supporting cast. And Kitana is, in my mind, always has been if Liu Kang is the central protagonist of the original MK trilogy, Kitana is the female protagonist. She's the number 2 to his number 1. She is the most important female character in the franchise.
pretty well.
And if you start taking away from her the thing she did on her own, the accomplishments and the motivations, that stock drops.
A little bit.
Because if you look at like 9X and 11, and you like, who's the female main? Now it's fucking Sonya, and that don't sit right with me. Because I don't fucking like Sonya.
Well, you know, she's the first lady of MK.
Whatever,
I get
man.
it. She's one of the main 3 heroes, and that is one thing that the MK95 movie really did impress on a lot of people.
Sonya, like, and this again goes back to Tobias's notes. Sonya was designed to be supporting cast. Like, he had these archetypes listed out. Like, Liu Kang is the hero, Raiden is the mentor, Johnny is the sidekick, and Sonya was what's called the skeptic. It's like the character who...
Scully.
Yeah, it's like for the audience who is being introduced into this world for the first time. The skeptic character is the one who asks questions and gets exposition delivered to them, and through them the audience then also learns about the world.
I would still define that as working very, very well as part of a core unit of main characters.
Sure,
X-Files.
but
X-Files.
that character is basically just another kind of sidekick.
So is
Sonya,
Johnny.
what does Sonya have to do with the world of Mortal Kombat? Like she has her little rivalry with Kano, but what does she have to do with Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn and the mergers of worlds?
Well,
Fucking nothing.
well, her and Jax are still important to the series as far as, I guess, being the core spine that which all the good guys can kind of rally behind. They're the backbone of the whole thing. Sure, a lot of us wish it was like, you know, the Shaolin.
Yeah,
but
well, look, I
don't approve of the excessive use of the special forces in every aspect of everything.
So I'm going to use Star
role.
Wars as a comparison point because Tobias referenced the original Star Wars trilogy a lot in the making of MK. Liu Kang is your Luke Skywalker. Raiden is Obi-Wan. And Johnny and Sonya... It's not a great parallel. Like, Johnny, you get Han Solo. Sonya isn't really the Princess Leia. Princess Leia has been cut in half. The half that dates Han Solo is Sonya, and the half that's like Darth Vader's daughter is Kitana.
I'd say Han's got a little bit of Sonya in him as well. Just
a little bit.
But anyway, we're digressing.
Right. I think Sonya's a little bit more of a Lando.
It's unnecessary.
Jax is Lando. I don't know.
That's not... Take that back. Jax doesn't deserve that. Sonya doesn't deserve that.
What's wrong with Lando?
Bitch got choked for a reason, yo.
Lando blew up the second Death Star.
He also stole Han's fucking shirt.
Well, he's
yeah.
living on the Falcon. The only clothing is what's in Han's fucking closet.
Okay. I'm gonna actually share some Katana memories, because I'm going to get to this. For those of you who are listening and were not about, or even alive during the arcade days, when it came to playthroughs of MK2, you had this as your option. Everyone up until you got to Kintaro. Then you died and you picked Katana. It was that simple. It really was. Kintaro was like not
right.
Not unbeatable, but they never fixed like this issue in his AI where if he saw Katana using a fan lift, his answers were to walk into it, stare at it and walk into it, or try to teleport stomp into it, which failed. So that was it. Katana was the anti-Kintaro. He had a hell of a hard time beating him with anyone else. Possible, just required some pretty good reflexes.
You know what always drove me crazy is Kintaro. Well, I think arcade AI is famous for its ability to cheat and do things that a player character cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Kintaro had the ability to, if you were, say, Liu Kang, and you did the flying dragon kick.
He could throw you out of that shit.
Yeah, he could just...
every time.
When your kick made contact with him, instead of him taking damage, he would do a throw. And it would work.
Same thing with Raiden's Superman torpedo. All the time. Slide. Same thing. It was maddening. But yeah, I bring that up to kind of also, share a bit of history there and showcase the fact that I think Katana was the first person for a lot of us who played the games on and on. I got into fighting games even. She was one of the first big characters to show us how big air combos worked.
Yeah,
that wacky zany Marvel vs. Capcom shit. Some of that started with
developers mention, on those video character interview things, the bio card videos that were on Deception and Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that Kitana in MK2 was sort of accidentally the first combo character they ever made. Now, that's not strictly true. You can actually find people playing MK1. There's gameplay footage where they pull off air juggles.
In retrospect, yeah.
But the first time it really got noticed in the arcades back in the 90s was Kitana could jump kick into fan throw.
Jump kick, fan throw, and if her timing was good, square wave right after it. Fuck, if you were in the corner, you could even throw a high kick in there, I think. You could do some obscene shit with her. I think she had 100% combos. For some characters.
It's certainly possible.
Anyhow, so that's Katana's big place in the arcade.
Yeah. She has that distinction of being at least the first time the Midway guys noticed that they had accidental combo.
Well, I mean, that was a Street Fighter thing, the combo itself. But MK's version of the combo. Let's see if it's that.
That's what I mean.
Now that I'm staring at it, I also want to mention something else. Her dizzy animation when she's about to be finished off, her and Mileena. Have you ever noticed that one of her arms is constantly moving up towards her midsection? They didn't think about this, and it's always bothered the hell out of me. When she's dizzy, her arm is literally going up and down and up and down. She's giving herself repeated tummy pats. It's really weird. They just looped it, and maybe they either missed it or just forgot about it. I don't know.
You know what? Maybe she took a few shots in the kidney,
Sure, why not?
Maybe she's trying not to throw up.
So, do we move on to UMK3 now?
Yeah. Katana was unfortunately not in vanilla MK3 because they decided we're not going to have palette swap ninjas in this one. We're going to have palette swap robots. So all of the ninjas sat out. And then it proved kind of an unpopular decision. So they're like, oh shit, we got to put Scorpion and Katana back in.
And, it's good that we can segue into this, actually, because Kitana was so very effective and unstoppable in MK2. Although not as much as Mileena and Jax. We've covered Jax already, but Mileena we'll get to in her episode, because holy shit. Kitana was so, like, strong in MK2 that they, like, toned the fuck out of her in UMK3. She's not the worst character in the game, but she's kind of down there. Like, she can be really easily knocked out of the fan lift. The fan lift itself is active for like 5 fucking seconds if it's blocked. It's an invitation to be hit. And she just does not do the damage that she used to. The dialogue combos aren't particularly damaging. Katana in UMK3 was not a fun time.
Yeah, I definitely remember the if they didn't get caught in the fan lift, you were sitting there a while.
Yeah. Another little difference, actually. They both had really stupid... Katana and Mileena both had really stupid throws in MK2. Like, the AI could, like, put you in a throw loop for as long as it felt like, basically. UMK3 was the first time Katana and Mileena had different throws. Katana would, like, kind of do this little leg grab overhead slam. And it was actually a pretty good throw.
She kind of stole Sonya's leg grab, didn't she?
Little bit.
Because I remember they had German suplexes in MK2.
I think you could combo off of that and, like, be a little bit dirty. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of the AI. If you actually got the AI in one of Katana's throws, you could fucking loop them in some versions of that in Trilogy. That was the first time Mileena had a different one. She did this overhead flip, which, like, literally threw you across the screen. It helped start to differentiate them, and I remember enjoying that.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that they like nerf the hell out of Katana, and then they make Jade the most broken fucking character.
Oh my god. Oh, I can safely say that we're looking forward to people sharing UMK3 Jade horror stories. We'll get there when we get there. So UMK3 Katana. As things happen during MK2...
The interesting thing to me about Ultimate MK3 and Trilogy is that if you look at the characters who sat out like vanilla and then came in later, all of them, they have these clever little bits in their bios that explain, like, oh yeah, this person was late and this is why they're finally showing up. Like, it's actually canon that they weren't there right away.
It is nice, isn't it?
Katana's backstory, for example, given in Ultimate MK3, is that at the end of MK2, she had killed Mileena. Mileena had caught her meeting up with the good guys and feeding them intel and working against Shao Kahn and was going to tattle on her. So Katana killed the bitch.
How do you think that actually went? Because I know that people usually liked to put story deaths down to a particular fatality. I always thought she chopped her head off with the fans.
I always kind of imagined, if it's possible to picture a version of the kiss of death that isn't cartoony.
I don't see why not. She's had variations.
In my mind, so Kitana and Mileena have, maybe there was a rocky start where it's like, I don't believe this is my sister. How have I not known this person existed for 9,000 years? I get that part. But, like, in my head, they did have 1,000 years together, training together and being sent together on assassination missions. Shao Kahn made them be a team. And so there had to have been some brief period, and brief in Edenian terms. By human terms, they were a partnership for several fucking lifetimes.
It's one of the great crimes of MK9's hyper-condensing everything into a digestible 2-hour movie that we never got to see this confrontation come to pass. Because it had to have been, like, shouldered by, I don't know, decades of Mileena being jealous that Kitana was Shao Kahn's rightful daughter, that she had everything that she never could, legitimacy, a proper face, love interests.
I just in my head, I always saw it as there was a period of time before Katana found evidence of her true parent and all that. There was a period of time where Katana was loyal to Khan and was killing people for him and was Mileena's partner and treated her like a sister.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there had to have been some kind of mixed feelings, some kind of regret when the time finally came to kill her. Even knowing that this person was a clone who was supposed to replace me, and the only reason she didn't is because she came out wrong.
She's an inherently kind person, Katana is, and
There had to have been some kind of compassion. So I like to imagine that wherever the fight between the two of them took place, and for some reason in my head it's the pit too, just because I don't know, the moonlit sky setting seems fitting. But in my head, when it comes down to the two of them actually fighting and Kitana has Mileena on the ropes and goes for the kill, I imagine there's like a goodbye sister and a sad kiss on the forehead. And then I don't know, Mileena throws up to death. Falls off the bridge.
whatever. The version I had pictured, actually, was, pursuant by all those years of, I'm your sister, and your Katana's growing suspicion that she isn't. It all comes to this head where, like, Katana is accused by Mileena and say, I was thinking the living forest, actually. I'll get to that afterwards, specifically why the living forest. Where, like, Mileena accuses Katana of treason. I've seen you hanging out with Earthrealmers. You've been talking to that Liu Kang guy. Khan hates him. What are you doing this to our father for? Why are you like this? You've always had everything I wanted. I'm your sister. How can you betray your family like this? And Katana goes, about that. So, yeah, and she starts telling her... I like to think that Katana tries to convince Mileena of the truth, to tell her the truth, and if she could, she'd tell her that, it doesn't matter, you can still be my sister, this and that. And Mileena won't have it, and she starts attacking Katana viciously. At some point, Katana makes her look at her own face in a pool of water, sends Mileena over the fucking edge. Mercy kill, fan to the neck, over and done with. Killing out of self-defense.
I suppose there's a way where you could sort of elegantly combine the two, because, like, again, it's hard to... The Kiss of Death is an inherently silly finisher.
That's the reason I tend to go with the decapitation.
But I think maybe this, like... Okay, so she's got, like, poison lipstick or whatever. She gives her a kiss, and, like, maybe Mileena starts choking and that stuns her, and then the chop of the head off.
Maybe.
Because I just sort of, I like the sad goodbye moment of it.
Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, I think everybody, it's weird. You talk to people and everybody does kind of have their own picture in their head.
It's a pivotal moment
of how Kitana killed Mileena. Everybody who was around before MK9 and thought of it anyway.
Deaths in the old timeline were kind of a big deal because they were relatively rare occurrences. More or less. So yeah, I'm not surprised at that. This has been our fanfic moment. And I'll just conclude by saying that the reason I think it's in the Living Forest is that I like to tie things together. So I tend to think that one of the things that happened there was Jade saw it. Because there's not a lot in the original BIOS to indicate that Jade was very, very loyal to Khan, apart from them saying, oh, she had to choose. So I think that like, having Jade report back on the assassination would actually, actually add a bit more weight to Jade also being loyal to Shao Kahn. For a while.
You think she tattled on her friend?
I do. And I think that that's one of the reasons she backpedals on it.
I sort of imagine it as, like, it's an ironic thing, because, like, Katana killed Mileena to cover up her treason, right? And she ends up getting accused of treason because they find out she killed Mileena. So, not a great cover-up.
No. Unless Jade overheard everything and reported it anyway.
I kind of figured maybe Okay, so Kitana chops Mileena's head off, goes back to the arena, feeds the guys the last piece of intel that, hey, Shao Kahn's preparing for an invasion. Get this tournament over with fast so you can go home and like start rallying the troops. So the tournament ends, they go home. People are kind of sitting around in Outworld. Hey, has anybody seen Mileena lately? And maybe they send out a search party and find the body. And hey, this decapitated head or whatever sure kind of looks like Kitana's doing, doesn't it?
Is that her body? Oh, the tree is eating it. Let it be.
So anyway, as far as the canon of it goes, Kitana is put on trial before quote-unquote the High Court of Outworld, which is certainly an institution we've never seen on screen.
And have
I
never
have to
seen.
imagine it's largely just
Ever.
Shao Kahn's throne room.
I like to picture it's Shao Kahn and like a small row of shadow priests, probably Shang Tsung too.
Yeah. Now, like if I was to do it, like if I was to write that cutscene, I'd certainly have like a council assembled, and like Kotal is there and Motaro is there. You know, all the like the captains and generals.
Goreback too, probably at this point.
Certainly. So anyway, so Kitana is put on trial, and I have to imagine that a trial on Outworld is a fucking show trial. There's not exactly going to be a fair showing in front of a jury of her peers.
There's that, and I think that like I'm pretty sure Jade came back with the evidence. I feel like it. It just fits. But yeah.
Yeah, well, Kitana, not much odds of her not being found guilty, especially because she actually is guilty.
Are you guilty of murder? No. Is this your sister's severed head? No, because it's not my sister. Blasphemy! You're guilty.
I guess they like Khan said take her away to the dungeons, and maybe they were going to have an execution later or whatever they were going to do, but she breaks free. And she runs through a portal to Earthrealm, and the invasion has already started at this point. And so she joins up with the heroes.
This is also, at this point in time, Reptile and Jade both enter the picture.
Yeah.
Because Khan dispatches them to get her.
Breaks loose and runs off. Shao Kahn gets Jade and Reptile, sends them both to retrieve her. And he tells Jade to bring her back alive. And then when Jade's not around to hear it, he tells Reptile, dead or alive. You know, if you gotta kill her, do what you gotta do.
Was it dead or alive?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it's just a dead in his case. Hang on.
I have to imagine that
he's ordered to stop the renegade princess at all costs, even if it means her death.
Yeah, I think Shao Kahn still kind of like wanted his daughter. He was just like, it was a disciplining thing.
It's more important to actually have her back.
If she's too much of a liability, like I hate to do it, but do it.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, old timeline Shao Kahn really, really wanted her to love him like a dad, and was like trying, you know, and it bothered him. And that's why he made Mileena, because he's like, I just want a version of Katana who will actually like appreciate me.
Yep. Can I also mention I really want to see video footage of the Reptile Jade road trip. I want to be a fly on the wall to watch that shit happen.
You know,
think about that. It's comedy gold.
I feel like the fact that Reptile has a specific mission in Ultimate Mk3, that he has like a task, that he's not just another soldier in Khan's army, that he was actually given this one job.
It's a big Kip moment for him.
It's like, you compare that to all the other games where they don't give him shit.
This was it. This was his one big shot and he blew it. Poor bastard.
Because it's like, what do any of the minions do in 9? Nothing. They wander the streets and they kill whoever shows up.
Compared to that, Reptile got a pretty sweet gig.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, writing, in terms of, like, quality of writing, giving the characters a fucking job is better than just having a pile of minions wander the street.
Reptile did nothing.
I feel like that's kind of obvious, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, why? Where was this in 9? That's all I'm saying. Why don't they actually use the characters they have? Give them things to do.
Beats me, dude. Bite-sized, friendly, commercial versions.
But yeah, so there's this little side plot, all the Katana's lonesome, where she jumps to Earthrealm to escape her trial and execution. And she's wandering Earthrealm by herself, trying to find the heroes and meet up with them for a while. And she's got Jade and Reptile on her trail. And when they catch up to her, Jade is like, all right, we're going to bring you in. And Reptile tries to go for the kill. And Jade is like, wait the minute. I was told to bring her in alive. And Reptile's like, well, that's not what I was told. And that is the point where Jade is like, oh, fuck this.
It says in Jade's
my best friend for that skull-faced idiot.
Yep. Jade kind of is the first person to canonically smack Reptile around. She is not the last.
So then Katana and Jade together meet up with the heroes and they help defeat Shao Kahn.
And everyone was happy.
Specifically, Katana goes on to confront her mother and talk Sindel out of being brainwashed, which is an important moment in Mk3 that they would elect never to repeat again, even though it's like the cornerstone of Sindel's storyline.
This is what happens when you adapt something for
and no, let's just let Sindel stay brainwashed all through 9 and all through X. And then when we get to 11, let's say she was evil all along. Because fuck her fans. Fuck what people liked about her. And fuck Katana too.
We'll get to this.
How did we get to this place?
We'll get to this more when we talk about 11. Because I have quite a bit to say about the way history unfolds for Katana in 11. Because it is not pretty. It's very unfortunate.
I don't understand how we got to a place in the real world where the people in charge of the franchise are aware of the story of Mk3 and go, nah, my idea's better.
Shock value and hack writing. That's all there is to it. Shock value, hypercondensation, and hack writing. That's all there is to it. So yeah, Katana does turn Sindel against Shao Kahn, according to her UMK3 ending. I don't know why Sindel is dressed like a villain from Star Trek. But it's alright. It kind of works.
You know what?
Edenian regalia, I suppose.
I'm that in 1995. That glam rock outfit with the little sleeveless jacket over the one-piece swimsuit was considered very stylish.
I don't know, man. Hair metal have kind of died. But anyway.
I kind of like the big collar on the jacket. The big silver puffy collar.
It just looks like something that someone in Babylon 5 would wear. I don't know.
It does have that quality to it, I won't deny. But I like the collar. It might be the one part of Sindel's character design that I do like.
Oh, we're gonna have words, you and I. But enough time.
We're gonna have a lot of words when we get to the Sindel episode.
Yes.
I think you already know that.
I think we're gonna have a lot of words about some things and none at all about other things, if you take my meaning. So, one thing we did not mention about UMK3 Katana. The wardrobe change.
Indeed.
So a slightly lighter shade of blue, as we discussed briefly. But now, we have a little bit of lace to go with our assassin ensemble.
If I was to describe the UMK3 girl's outfit in a word, the word would be lingerie.
I can't disagree. I want to, but it's what it is. And you know what?
I don't dislike it.
No, I'm not saying that either.
Yes. So even though it's like blatantly like lingerie, it's less sexualized than anything they're wearing in like 9.
Oh, totally. But I do
it's
I do have a memory.
Sexy.
It's like PG-13 DC Comics sexy. I do have a memory
like that outfit, except for the hair in a bun. It's the bun is. There is a way to wear a bun. For example, Kitana has her hair in a bun in Shaolin Monks, but she also has her bangs loose, and that makes it look a lot more attractive. I think the way they're wearing it in Ultimate MK3 it's like uptight school marm or something. It's weird to me.
In my head, the UMK3 bun kind of belongs to Jade.
I can see that.
Like, she just looks better with it than Katana or
Mileena
does.
Jade does wear it best. Like, I feel like Katana should have her bangs loose. Mileena should probably have a ponytail instead.
I actually do like Mileena's Mk4 ponytail a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I can't deny that that's lingerie because, you know, I have this memory. I had an issue of EGM that, it was the breaking the story about UMK3.
I had that issue too. I remember that it was probably the most excited I had been for anything MK3 since the game was announced, because the lack of Scorpion and Katana in vanilla hit me hard. Like, it really bothered me. I didn't have a go-to character in vanilla.
So I remember, like, looking at this 4-page spread that showed off Katana, Scorpion, Jade, and Reptile. Just looking over the whole thing, rereading it. I remember my dad once took us on a trip to Saratoga from Montreal, which is like a 6-hour trip. And I think I wore that issue out. I think I wore those 4 pages out on that trip. Yeah. And I do especially remember really, really taking in Katana's outfit.
It's funny. I mean, really. It's funny. Like, my first impressions way back then, back in like 95 or 96 when that issue came out, pretty much still how I feel to this day. My first look at Scorpion in the outfit with the squares, and I'm just like, this is a fucking weird costume. How did he come up with this? This doesn't make sense.
Why does Scorpions have teeth and Reptile okay, it's just like, okay, it's a skull pattern. Neat.
What is this weird superhero stripey shit?
I just remember being really excited that we're getting to play Jade at the same time as we could with Smoke, even though I was kind of irritated he was a robot. It's like, hey, maybe New will be in this one too. Sweet.
Smoke is a robot. You know what? When I say I didn't have a character in vanilla, I didn't have a character until I saw Cyber Smoke. And that's probably one of the main reasons why I'm so attached to Purple Robot.
That's fair. You didn't have Cabal? Everyone had Cabal.
Smoke is the point of vanilla MK3. Like, everything else in that game is filler to hype up the ultimate combat code.
Damn, son. But I had Cabal. Everyone had Cabal.
Yeah, Cabal was alright.
Cabal broke the game. Everyone had Cabal. Cabal had everyone. So, we should probably go into a little bit of background on Kitana's wilderness years, kind of, because we've got that MK3 picture of her, that portrait.
Yeah, the picture of her as like a 5 to 8-year-old. It's with Sindel before she's died, and she has pure gray hair. There's no black streak in it.
Yes.
The one with the castle with the skull, and Shao Kahn is like transparent, kind of hovering over them.
So there's a lot of like confusion or like uncertainty as to exactly how old she was when Jared bit the dust and
Yeah.
Khan came
My
marching
my
in.
position has always been that we know she doesn't remember Jared. Otherwise, Khan trying to pose as her dad wouldn't have worked.
I have always kind of assumed the same. Like, I look at it this way. I'm not even 40 years old, and there are many years from my early youth I have no recollection of. I recall isolated incidents, little things, maybe one thing every other year or two from when I was really young. So for someone who's
Well,
10,000 years old, I kind
I
of
think
take
the
it for
thing is
granted she doesn't remember.
it's not the quantity of your memories that matters. It's the vividness of the ones that were important. Because I don't remember a lot of my early childhood, but I very distinctly remember Christmas when I was 3 years old. I got a Teddy Ruxpin doll.
Oh
I
man.
remember what the house looked like. I remember what my dad looked like when I was like 3 to 5. He had a big bushy beard, like 70s hair.
I remember wanting
Um,
Starscream and getting Ramjet, wanting Shockwave and getting Soundwave.
like Kitana wouldn't necessarily have detailed memories of Jared if she was old enough to remember him, but she'd have a picture in her mind of someone who clearly looks very different than Shao Kahn does.
But she
And
might not know who he was, yeah.
And obviously, there's the Shaolin monks version of things, which says that she was under mind control magic or had her memories erased. That also comes up in Malibu.
I
Which
subscribed to that for a long time, but you know,
yeah,
it is kind of cheap.
I can't say definitively that it's impossible for the canon version to have a mind wipe magic in it. I can't say one way or another, confirm or deny, that that's never been part of it. I don't know what Tobias. I know Tobias never wrote that into it. I think there's a bit in Deception where they suggest there may have been magic involved in Mileena's bio. Um, my personal feeling is that mind control magic would cheapen the drama. I would prefer it to not be that.
It's an understandable position. I would prefer something more organic too, but if they at this by the same token, if they ever actually came out and they said that's what happened, I'd be like, okay, that's how I used to see things. I guess I can deal with it being that way.
Well, I mean,
Sure, no problem.
my official opinion of the picture from the MK3 ending is that this is not a picture from when Edenia was conquered. This picture, because it has the skull castle in it, represents after Edenia was conquered, Kitana being raised, and it's around the time Sindel would have committed suicide.
About that, I always kind of figured that it went without saying that Shao Kahn would never have let Sindel anywhere near his daughter. Unless he was going to also use mind control to make her forget her entire relationship with Jared, which we
I
know
think
was not the case because she killed herself.
I imagine that Sindel was allowed like limited contact raising Katana
Like with Khan present.
in the room and making sure that like she wasn't going to tell her the truth and turn her against him and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's either something like that or she was locked in a tower.
You have to assume that Sindel was allowed nowhere near the amount of time with her daughter that she would have wanted, and that this would have strongly contributed to her eventually killing herself. And that would be why claims on Twitter that like the old version of Sindel was selfish for killing herself and leaving Kitana with Khan. That rings hollow to me because you don't know just what conditions Sindel was forced to live in. You can't judge her
No.
when you haven't been in her shoes.
I was under the assumption that she was allowed little to no contact to her daughter from the very start. And Khan is not going to let someone who knows all about the real history of Edenia as it was go around like whispering truths into his adopted daughter's ear.
Yeah. And of course, like the people who would complain about that, who support the MK11 version of Sindel, I ask you this. If Sindel was evil all along, then who raised Kitana to be a good person? Why is she not like her mom? it's a
Watch
big
them say
call. It
Shiva.
doesn't make sense.
The answer was Shiva.
See, I have significant problems with Shiva's backstory being changed so that she was always Sindel's bodyguard, as opposed to being Sindel's bodyguard only during 3, like the original bio, because Shiva really should not be 5 times older than Goro is.
Okay, food for the Shiva retro when we get there.
Yeah, that's we're off topic now, but the main issue is how old was Kitana when Edenia was conquered? Was she old enough to have played with Rain and Jade as a child and stuff like that? And I know that some people like to imagine she was, because that fits like their fan fiction idea of, the Edenia they want to write where they're all playing as kids, and it's more like tragic that those childhood friendships were broken up by Khan showing up, or whatever drama they're going for in their own story that they're writing. But the number one argument that I have that Kitana had to have been like a newborn baby, too young to have memory of Jared or childhood friendships with Rain and Jade is the population of Edenia would they weren't wiped out. There are a significant number of Edenians who live in Outworld, and Kitana would have interactions with those Edenians on the regular as the leading assassin and enforcer who Khan sends out to quell rebellions, because most of the rebellions in Outworld would have been the Edenia ones, and we know that from Rain's backstory. He worked for the Edenian Rebellion. Tanya grew up in the rebellion. Her father was a major member of it, and that's how he ended up working for Sindel when Edenia was brought back in 4. That's also why Tanya, by the way, does not count as one of the ninja girls. She never worked for Shao Kahn, she never assassinated anybody, and she never wore a mask.
She wears a yellow swimsuit. It's good enough for most people.
It doesn't matter how much she dresses like them. She never wore a mask, and she was never a ninja.
You're not gonna change minds, man. You're just not. I mean, I get the logic, but like those people also put Reiko in the same boat, an unmasked ninja.
Whatever.
But I would actually say that as far as Jade goes, Katana having a childhood with Jade, I think it can actually work, because it depends on how the Edenian aging process works. Whether they actually have, 15 years of adolescence like we do, or a prolonged, protracted period. Say a couple of thousand years. If it's a couple of thousand years, I don't have any problem with, that depiction of her and Jade training together in, one of the endings in 11 being a problem. That's fine to me.
If Shao Kahn had not come, I could see Kitana and Jade growing up as friends together, because Jade's parents were nobility too. They could have known each other. I just don't think that Kitana was old enough in the canon version when Edenia was conquered. And my main argument for that is that she's been out there killing Edenians, and if every Edenian knew that Jared and Sindel had a kid, there's no way Shao Kahn could have kept that from her. That information has to be rare. It has to be a situation where, so Edenia and Outworld are at war. They're fighting off Shao Kahn's invasion while Sindel is pregnant, and she gives birth. And the only people who know Jared has a daughter when Khan comes a-callin' are the people who serve in the castle. And so most, if not all of them, died, thus allowing Shao Kahn to preserve the secret that this baby isn't his.
I'm on board with most of that. The problem I've always had was the fact that it takes her thousands and thousands of years to actually start suspecting the truth. And I just think that there's a reason Ermac exists. This has been my running theory for a long time now. And I don't think that all the Edenians were wiped out or anything like that. But I think that there was large swaths of extermination going on once it happened. And like you said, that had to start with a lot of people in the castle. So it probably took her thousands of years to get around to that, because the people who knew about it were either so rare that it was hard to track them down. They were keeping themselves very well hidden. B.
Well, yeah. So my presumption would be like, again, if Kitana were so much as like 5 years old, it would be common knowledge in the kingdom. So any Edenian who survived would know that Kitana is the name of Jared's daughter. But if Kitana were a newborn and only the people in the castle knew that she had been born, then maybe like the way she found out the truth was because, as she often was, she was sent out to assassinate some members of the Edenian resistance in that world. And she happened to stumble upon like the last living guy who was like a member of the royal court. And maybe it's even Tanya's dad.
Dun dun dun.
Because
finish him. Sorry.
Obviously, when we know that guy knew Sindel. He works for her when Edenia is rebuilt. He was probably a member of the nobility or someone close to the royal family before Edenia was conquered, and that's why he kept a high position in the resistance, and then had a high position when Edenia was rebuilt in 4, because that's Tanya's backstory, that her dad is this fancy noble guy, but not fancy enough, and she's jealous of the throne.
Now, as far as Rain goes, so it's kind of one of those urban myths where, because of Defenders of the Realm, a lot of people think that they knew each other as kids. And a base reading of Katana's Rain's MK trilogy ending, like, kind of has her revealing the truth about his heritage to him, which is beside the point, because partially beside the point, because we know he learns that from other sources afterwards. But it does implant the idea that she at least was aware of him.
The knowledge she reveals to him isn't even the modern version of his backstory. She tells Rain that his father was a general under Jared.
That's correct.
It's like, when Khan invaded, he killed your dad in the war, you should be mad at Khan.
That's correct, but I've always assumed, well, I used to assume at least, that you could retcon that little bit of sentence, general in a Edenian army, to, hey, your dad's a god. Fancy that, huh?
Here's the thing, I don't think it's necessary to retcon it, because obviously Rain was a bastard son. Argus wouldn't have raised him. He'd have had somebody else adopt his kid so that Delia wouldn't be mad.
So you think it's maybe...
I think that Jared's general raised Rain, or was going to until Shao Kahn showed up.
So you think it's possible that Katana actually did tell him, hey, your dad was a general, you know? And then he goes and looks into that, and then further on the line after his own investigations.
Yeah, and then he finds, that general wasn't even my real dad. The god Argus was.
Tell me what to do, not my real dad. Stupid Italian. Nah.
But yeah, the thing about the Defenders of the Realm cartoon is, first of all, Defenders of the Realm is in it's in like threshold continuity, where Kitana always knew she was a step kid and never liked Khan and would openly starscream against him.
One of these days I'll have to take in that show, but I'm just so terrified. I mean, some of the premises have always sounded plausible.
Yeah, so the exact what the Defenders of the Realm episode says is that Rain and Kitana at some point in the past were romantic together and were engaged to be married.
Gross.
Yeah, and she didn't do it, I think, because he chose to start working for Shao Kahn.
The glaring personality flaws weren't your first clue, sister? Yeesh.
But yeah, it wasn't that they were friends as children, it was that they were romantic as adults.
Yeah, it's all been like conflated over time, as many
Yeah,
things tend to
things
be.
get confused when you try to combine adaptations and the canon, and there's multiple versions of things. But it's interesting because Conquest also references the idea that Rain is an old lover of Kitana's.
See, there you go. There it is again.
It was just a threshold thing, like in their continuity Bible that they came up with for their movies and shows. Rain is Kitana's ex-boyfriend.
You've got to wonder again whether or not they were working from material that Tobias might have had in mind. Clearly, it never panned out that way.
Doubt
But
it. Because I think in this particular case, Tobias has always kind of expressed on like Twitter that he had Jack and shit for Noob Saibot and Rain and Ermac, and is
did he
always
really?
like
That's a
impressed.
shame.
He's always like impressed that the games after he left actually did something with those characters and fleshed them out.
Credit where due. So we move on to Mk4. And then we move on to MK Gold because she ain't in that one. Or is she?
Well, it's funny. She was gonna be.
She still kind of is if you have a Game Shark.
Yes,
and the PS copy of
N64 version.
PS2. It's both.
You can do it on both?
I believe so.
Yeah, you can hack into the home version of Mk4 and play as Katana. And she's as you might imagine, if you know where I'm going with this, she is just a recolor of Tanya. Because in the earliest builds of arcade Mk4, Katana was going to be in, and they were like, we don't have enough new characters, so they recolored her to make Tanya.
It is really interesting to me, though, that they bothered to, like, port even that incomplete code to the home versions.
What were her moves like? Because I know she did have the fan as her pull-out weapon, and she could throw it, and it basically behaved just like every weapon in that game worked the same.
I don't remember if she actually had special moves or not.
I don't think
she had fatalities.
I might have seen her have the square wave. Because the square wave is in the game. Sonya does it.
Maybe. I can't say for sure.
And I mean, with a 3D game, it's just a matter of sharing the animation.
I couldn't say, but I do remember using a Game Shark to play as her a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, you can see her model, the Tanya in original colors, in Liu Kang's ending.
I bet you can.
Yeah. And it's so until Gold came out, that was Kitana's official appearance in Mortal Kombat 4. She only shows up in Liu Kang's ending to go, thank you for saving my realm again. Hey, you want to get married? And Liu Kang is like, I'd love to, but I'm not allowed.
I see. That is disappointing. They shall have to call the horny police. Good day.
It's almost like her response is goodbye forever.
I kind of feel like that's what they were going for. It was a now or never kind of deal. Because remember, back in the day, opening a portal was a big fucking deal.
Well, there's kind of the implication in the bio of like, Liu Kang has been visiting Edenia. Like, he can go there anytime he wants. Because Liu Kang's bio is that when he finds out Shinnok and Quan Chi have invaded Edenia, he goes off to Edenia all by himself, and he's like, I'm Liu Kang, I can take him. And he gets his ass kicked, and he comes back to Earth, and he's like, okay, I'll get my friends.
But I really did think that was supposed to to be a big deal. Like, this was it. Whether because portals were a pain in the ass to open, or because no meant no, Liu Kang could never do it. He's the immortal champion of Mortal Kombat. No time for this. Got to train like Goku.
So imagine for a second that you're the head writer, that you're into Bias's shoes.
God, I'm pretty.
You have the only romance in your entire franchise. You've been planning this romance since the first game. You have also introduced the idea in this game that Liu Kang is ready to retire. He's got an apprentice now. You know, this Kai guy is going to take his place. We're ready for the next generation of heroes. Liu Kang has won 3 fucking games in a row. He can take a fucking nap.
Well, we do know now that, from his commentary, he was going to have Katana and Liu have a kid down the line.
Yeah, that was his plan for MK5, was it was going to be set in the future, and it was going to be Liu and Katana's son as an adult, as the new protagonist, and Liu Kang was going to be dead, and the son was going to, like, be finding out what killed his dad. So why would you end 4 with Liu saying no?
To fuck with him once 5 came out? Who knows?
To fuck with the audience? Who wanted that? How is that a satisfying ending?
I don't think the point of it was to be satisfying. I think the point of it was to really impress on us the weight of actually being the immortal champion of Mortal Kombat.
I guess. The situation makes sense. He does have to stay in Earthrealm and defend in case there's ever a tournament again. That's true. But as a writer, why would you give your audience the finger like that?
To give them the big hug and kiss later. What
franchise is there to fucking invest in, if not Liu X Katana?
Well, this was what, 1997, 1996 was being written? Maybe he was thinking that Johnny X Sonya was something that he could also play up. Wasn't sure.
I don't know. There is no hint in canon of that one until Deadly Alliance, and the hint in Deadly Alliance is Johnny's hot for her, and she thinks he's an idiot.
I mean, they approached it right. They really did.
That is what it is in the movie. Except that eventually she's supposed to get past the part about him being an idiot and actually start to, like, see that there's something more to him. And that doesn't happen until fucking 9.
You know something? Maybe he was still thinking of doing this with Katana and Liu Kang. We'll have him initially say no. But it winds up being one of those illicit affair things. No one must know. You're a human. I'm an outworld. I'm a Denian. I have so much more to do. And
I don't know. I guess one of the reasons it bothers me is because that is the first overt mention of a romance between the two of them in canon. Because, like I said, like they show up in each other's endings repeatedly in 2 and 3 before that, but never in a way that it's like, oh, and she's my girlfriend. Like, they don't come out and fucking say it. It's just, thank you for saving my realm, which gives everybody on the internet who doesn't believe in the ship plausible deniability.
Why are you paying attention to those people?
It's just, I don't know, because
show up
I've had 20 years of people going, Liu and Katana wasn't a thing except in the movie. Yes, it fucking was.
The movie solidified it. But the games were always intended to slowly build up to it. And as much as
I think they built a little too slowly. Like, it should have... If it's me, and I'm writing a story... And again, like Tobias is always comparing it to Star Wars. The original Star Wars was a trilogy. Okay, everything gets paid off in the 3rd one. Han and Leia hook up in the 3rd one. Luke gets Vader to turn in the 3rd one. The Emperor is defeated in the 3rd one. It's a trilogy. Well, by those standards, Liu Kang and Kitana should have hooked up at the end of MK3. That's what a normal writer would do.
Well, 4's ending here does show us, Liu's ending here does show us, it does confirm everything on the table. Because when he says goodbye, Princess Katana, he's fucking sad, and you can hear it.
I guess.
He's not... This is not a we can't do business goodbye. This is a...
I find it strange that in 2 and 3, the connection between Liu and Katana is so vague, and it never just comes out right and says these two are romantic interests until that ending in 4, and that ending consists of him saying, I can't marry you, and her going, all right, goodbye. I think it was poorly handled.
A criticism of the original timeline from Razor?
I know, right?
What timeline are we in? Where are we right now? Who
I
are you?
note the date.
My god, you mean to tell me we're not all about praising the old shit and hating the new
Yeah,
stuff?
imagine that. Apparently, I'm a three-dimensional human being. Weird, isn't it?
We actually did not cover that brief bit in Lou's Mk3 ending where, like, you see that silhouette of Kitana in the portal. It's a footnote, but it's an important footnote relating to this. That, yeah, before the portal closes, Kitana greets him and goes, "Hey, thank you. I've had other shit to do, but appreciate it."
Well, yeah, and that's the other, like in her MK2 bio and ending, where it's, she was meeting with
An Earthrealmer.
an Earthrealmer.
It was him, obviously.
It was Liu Kang, man. Just fucking say it.
Connect the dots. I don't know why they didn't just say Earthrealm Champion. See him talking to the Earthrealm Champion, because that's even a bigger red flag.
Yeah. And I mean, if you were gonna meet with an Earthrealmer and conspire to take down Shao Kahn, wouldn't it be the champion?
Gee, I don't know.
No, Kitana was meeting with Johnny Cage behind the scenes. Her and Jax were plotting to stab Shao Kahn in the back. That makes perfect sense.
Johnny brought Mocap along, and she was fascinated by us. So, MK Deadly Alliance.
Right. MKDA. Well, we should mention, like, Kitana does appear in MK Gold. We haven't actually gone through Gold yet.
I just wanted to break away from the balls joke. I'm getting to it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So MK Gold.
There are two versions of this. Her ending.
Once again, is given a bio of, like, here's why she's late. Tobias had a thing where when they did an expansion, he'd give the characters a reason for showing up late to the fighting. I kind of like that. In Kitana's case,
Notwithstanding, the Mk4 bios are, as established, kind of written on a napkin in a restaurant fare.
They are short. They are vague. Mk4 is, I would say,
it's underwritten.
The least written game in the original timeline. Less so even than MK1 in some cases. But as far as Kitana in Gold goes,
yeah, Quan Chi
first we should talk about actually the Mk4 comic, because this leads into Gold.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, so the Mk4 comic book isn't strictly written by Tobias. It's give me a second. I'm gonna look up the name of the writer.
I don't really remember it conflicting with much of anything, though.
Well, it conflicts with Johnny Cage's backstory. Okay, so the Mortal Kombat 4 comic book, which came with the PC version of the game. That's how you got this comic. The original MK1 and 2 comics, you had to mail in for them to Midway. The Mk4 comic you got by buying the PC version of Mk4. So it was written by a guy named Ted Adams, quote unquote, based on a story by John Tobias.
Again, probably feeding info there.
Yeah, so unlike the original 2 comics, which were by Tobias, this one he just told someone else what to write. So the Mk4 comic starts in Edenia with Reptile being put on trial for serving Shao Kahn, and he's going to be banished to the Netherrealm, as in his bio. And then Tanya and her father come in, and she says these refugees from another realm want to come to Edenia to escape. I think they say to escape Shao Kahn.
Which would actually make sense. Interesting little bit of trivia there. I mean, the realm is currently weakened, but he is still Khan.
Well, actually, okay, so this is funny. So this guy who's in a robe with Tanya, who is like the ambassador from his realm who wants asylum, it's obviously Quan Chi. You can see his fucking face.
Yeah, I remember the lips being very visible.
Yeah, so Quan Chi is like, he tells a story about coming from a realm called Trake, and Trake has been invaded by the evil sorcerer Shilkad.
Very subtle.
This is a believable story he has concocted. Anyway, he says that his people would like to be portaled into Edenia to escape, as refugees. And in return for this favor, he offers Sindel a gift, and it's like a glowing magic orb. And he said, when you gaze upon this orb, it will show you your heart's greatest desire, or something like that. And she looks at the orb, and it fucking brainwashes her. Because Sindel is nothing if not susceptible to mind control.
Oh, it's so painful.
So I feel like there was an opportunity here with this scene to simply say, hey, you remember how in Mythologies we said that Quan Chi and Shinnok helped bring Sindel back to life and brainwashed her in 3 in the first place? Maybe when Kitana broke her from that brainwashing, there were still, there was a trigger word implanted so that when Quan Chi said the magic word, Sindel would come under the spell again. They could have just done that.
Really good at what he does.
They could have just, had continuity. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe Sindel is just brainwashed by the sight of shiny objects. Who knows? It's a running theme.
I guess, because anyway, she stares at the shiny object, and Quan Chi is like, "Muhaha," just as planned. And then it cuts to Kitana with her Edenian royal guards, those guys in the pink and purple armor that you see in her ending, or in Kung Lao's ending, actually, in gold. Her and these guards are at some castle. Actually, it looks kind of like a farm stable because it's full of centaurs.
Prosperous times indeed.
So her and her guards are standing in the middle of a group of centaurs and a group of Shokan who are insulting each other and fighting over territory and borders and stuff. And Kitana is trying to negotiate between them, and she's not having much luck. And then Goro jumps down from the rafters and punches the nearest centaur in the face.
Always the diplomat.
And everybody in the room is like, oh shit, it's Goro. And now they're willing to listen.
Guy gets it done, you gotta give him that. If anyone knows whether someone needs a friendly word of advice or a punch to the face, it's probably the Prince of Pain.
Yep. So apparently this is a side room of the castle, because as Kitana starts to make some headway in the negotiations now that Goro has showed up, she looks right out the window and there's an explosion, and she's like, oh no, Queen Sindel is in danger. She doesn't say my mom. The dialogue is a little too formal.
You wouldn't call the queen mom in front of all her, subordinates.
I guess, but she looks right out the window, and there's this, a portal opens up, and Shinnok and Reiko and Scorpion and a bunch of, bat-winged demons come out. And so Edenia is invaded by Shinnok's forces. And the rest of the comic follows the heroes assembling an Earthrealm. And the reason I say that the comic isn't strictly 100% canon is because when Sonya shows up, she has Johnny with her in a helicopter, and Johnny says, oh, I was with the Special Forces because I was researching for a role. I'm going to play an army guy in my next movie.
Right.
And the canon version is supposed to be that Johnny Cage is dead, and he's in heaven. And when Shinnok's forces attack heaven, he helps Raiden and Fujin fight, and as a reward, they're like, okay, we'll bring you back to life. It's a contradiction between the in-game bios and the comic, and it bothers me. But the one thing the comic is good for is that it is the first time. MK Gold has not even been announced yet when this comic came out, I'm fairly certain. So this comic is the first time we see Kitana negotiating that peace treaty between the Shokan and the Centaurs, and it's the first time we see those Edenian guards in the pink armor. And all these things we will see in gold, so it's some neat telegraphing going on there.
Again, more evidence that this guy's getting his stuff from John.
Right. So the comic shows us that stuff, and then we get to gold, and Kitana's bio in gold is that when Edenia was taken over by Shinnok, Sindel and Kitana, and presumably Jade too, although she's not mentioned, were thrown in the dungeon, and someone, quote unquote, left the dungeon unguarded, and Kitana was able to break out.
Katana manages to escape the remaining guards surprisingly easily.
And then you find out in Mileena's bio that she basically let Kitana out because she wanted to fight her real bad. So Kitana escapes the dungeon, and she makes her way to the throne room waiting. And the two of them have a fight that we see in both of their endings can go one of two ways. Either Mileena knocks Kitana into the throne and then sends the throne flying out the window, and Kitana falls to her death, I think.
Yeah, she's like,
she like shoots her with her psi lasers.
And she actually screams a whoop and a whoop as she does it a la Tanya.
Yep.
And knocks her out of a window and admires her throne. But that's not the way it happened. And
no, the canon version is the Katana's ending, where when she's knocked into the throne, she immediately hits a button on the armrest, and Mileena is conveniently standing on the trap door and falls into the dungeon.
This is actually what I'd say one of the most important things for Mileena going forward. We'll get to that more in Mileena's episode.
Certainly.
But
I think it's
interesting to note.
Worth noting that the reason we know this ending is canon is because when we get to Deception, where's Mileena?
She's in the dungeon.
In the dungeon.
She's been rotting there for a decade or whatever the period is.
I think there are like 2 years between 4 and Deadly Alliance.
What's notable about Kitana's Mk4 ending, as much as Kitana's character goes, there is not a hint of like compassion in her voice.
No, she is like none. She's really mean to Mileena in that dialogue.
You are evil and have no place in this world. Nobody loves you. You smell of fish. And I'm pretty sure I saw you eating a guy before I killed you.
You belong in a trash can.
Pretty much. She is upset.
It's weird because then she doesn't kill her. Because, like, she killed her in 2. No, this time she throws her in the dungeon. You know what? I guess if she's already come back from the dead, you've now established that killing her isn't going to stick. Maybe leaving her in the dungeon will.
She has no questions about that, so I'm going to assume that when Shinnok came back and brought legions of dead people with him, she just went, okay, well, there's my sister.
Yeah, I think people get the gist pretty quickly that Shinnok is from hell.
Yeah.
And that he's bringing the dead back to life. So yeah, it's interesting. Kitana's sort of most important story part isn't in her own ending, it's in Kung Lao's. Because that's the part, like, if I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like 99.9% of MK fans never got to see the Mk4 comic book. I know I didn't. Until much later.
I did not know it was a thing that existed for years and years.
Yeah, like I had seen advertisements that the PC version of 4 came with a comic book, but I didn't have a PC that could run Mk4. I had a Dreamcast.
As did I, and it was good enough. Not until a couple of years after the fact, either.
So yeah, the Kung Lao ending was my introduction to the part about her making peace between the Shokan and the Centaurs, and Edenia's guards having pink armor.
Goro, We are here to offer the Shokan a treaty for truce. The Centaurs have already signed and agreed to all terms. We now await your acceptance.
War has been waged in this realm for too long. We must bring it to an end. I will set aside my differences with the Centaurs, as long as they abide by the treaty. I shall sign your agreement.
Goro, this is a great victory for all of us.
It is really insane how much stuff happens in that ending.
You know, the pink-purple armor has remained consistent over the games, weirdly enough. We see that armor in Deception Conquest. We see it on the Wasteland in MK9.
So from here, we should probably move into Deadly Alliance.
The Goro stuff, in particular, directly goes into Katana's story in DA. One of the few instances, actually, of Deadly Alliance strongly referencing something from 4, because in a lot of cases, it seemed like DA was trying to avoid talking about Shinnok and was just skipping from 3 to the new stuff.
Yeah, they never really knew how to handle that.
It was weird, but in Katana's case in particular, they remembered and they went straight into it, and they're like, okay, well, she's now made this strong political alliance with Goro. The two of them are friends, and Deadly Alliance's story for her starts with her finding out that Shao Kahn is still alive, that he's been living in hiding in Outworld ever since he got defeated at the end of 3. Like, everybody, I guess, thought he was dead, but not
Does
really.
it actually say that they thought he was dead? Because, I mean, Reptile's still
Well, they
looking for the
definitely
guy.
talk
He's
about
still
him,
got
like,
his
lying
iron...
low, and like that his rule over Outworld is very like on the down low now, and things are quiet, and he just kind of stays in his castle and broods and heals, and he's like,
Yeah, like, I figured it wasn't a secret
like
that he was still alive.
it's
He's
like
just
he's
in a really...
staying in his room sulking.
He's
It's
in a
like
really
Shao Kahn
weakened
has
state,
depression.
a vulnerable position, so he's not, like... He's not out leading campaigns, but it's a known fact that he's there, and he's a hard target.
Right. Well, I'm just trying to reconcile it with the fact that there are Shao Kahn-shaped sarcophagi in MK Gold stages. It feels to me like maybe when he was defeated at 3, he told his people, spread the rumor that I'm dead so that people will leave us alone for a bit.
I think that he very well might have been thought dead for a good long while before he came slinking back to his cave.
Yeah.
Made just enough of a show to convince people that he was still something to be reckoned with, then dismissed all his guards, sat on his throne, and just sighed and drank.
Well, whatever the case may be, Katana has decided that he should not be still alive, and has come into Outworld with an army and joined forces with the Shokan to finish him off once and for all. And so her story starts with her in an actual military campaign, sieging the field in front of his castle. And they talk about how she's got her little war camps and tents set up, and her and Goro are going out into the field, and they're fighting a force that's led by Kano and Noob Saibot.
This is how you know Khan has run out of people.
Yeah, Kano is the fucking general now.
God, like, think about it. Run over all the names. Where is everyone? Motaro, dead. Shiva, also dead. Ermac, wandering the wastes. Probably unknown to Khan, converted by Quan Chi at this point.
Yeah, it does raise a question of how long Quan Chi has been spying in Outworld for the OIA. Like, when did he start doing that, and when did he run into Ermac?
Rain, probably fucked off by this point.
Oh yeah, Rain is gone. There's between Trilogy and Armageddon, we don't see Rain working for Outworld at all. He is purely a free agent.
He's probably researching into his own past at this point. He's off on his...
Deception would have us believe that he's in Edenia, just trying to avoid getting arrested.
I'm imagining him like wearing a shabby cloak and being forced to steal to survive. It's pretty rewarding. Yeah,
I
who
like
else?
it.
Chameleon,
it.
who the fuck knows? The male one, no one seems certain. Shao Kahn, like the Shokan and the Centaurs at each other's throats. We know the Shokan have rebelled against him. Centaurs are probably have nothing to do with him either at this point. Christ, who the hell am I forgetting? There's got to be more people.
I guess Mileena, Baraka.
Mileena's in a hole.
Yeah, that's true. Melina's in a hole. She's in the dungeon in Indenia.
What is Baraka doing at this point? He's
Well,
he's around during Deception.
I think Baraka just went back to Outworld at the end of 4. Reptile and Baraka both.
Okay, so they're still in service. Reptile is still kind of there, but technically not.
They just went home. So Baraka and the Tarkatans are working for Khan, and Reptile is working for Khan. Noob Saibot's working for Khan, but he's really a spy for the Brotherhood still, I guess.
As ever. Kintaro may be dead, probably, who knows.
I mean, it's some bare bones shit.
Yeah. Anyway, Khan don't have a lot of good help left.
No. Although it should be noted that Saibot succeeds more or less at taking Goro down, and this distracts Katana enough that Kano beats her in a fight, and her forces have to retreat.
Score 1 for Kano. Yeah.
Impressive, honestly, considering.
You know what? Khan needed a win. Let's give it to him.
I guess. So the rest of that story is that Shao Kahn sees the enemies at the gate, and he sends Reptile out to fetch Shang Tsung from Shang's house, because I guess Shang is a part-timer now. He just lives out in the wilderness.
We didn't mention Shang. Shang spent some time in a dungeon after his failures in Mk4 until he regained Shao Kahn's favor, and I guess was allowed to like head back to his palace, doing favors every now and then. So he's around, but I imagine his commitment is not what it once was. Well,
no, he seems to, I guess, stay at home and only show up when he's summoned, as we see here. Khan sends Reptile out to get him.
Yeah, there's a lot of love lost between the two of them. So,
and obviously there's a whole story of Reptile spies on him and sees him making plans with Quan Chi to betray Khan, and then Reptile is going to rush back and tell Khan, but Nitara shows up and is like, "Hey, let me show you something," and he gets sidetracked, and so
begins Reptile's odyssey of pain.
Deadly Alliance take him out, but did they really? Because Deception fucked it all up. But as far as Kitana's point of view goes,
they were on the verge of winning when Goro died.
Yeah, they were right at the front gate of the fortress, and this was the last big push. And Goro goes down, and Kano beats her, so she retreats, and they take Goro's body back to camp, and he's like bleeding out, and he dies. And then you later find out it's not Goro, it's a fake, but whatever. I don't want to talk about that Deception Red.
No one does.
So Goro dies, and so Katana takes his body back to the Shokan, and they have a big ceremonial funeral where they I guess the Shokan bury their royalty by dunking it in lava in the palace. They've got a big lava moat in their fucking...
They put them in this ornate gold coffin, and it's all emblazoned with the Shokan sigil, and they just let it go down. Yeah,
and there's some stuff about how, like, those columns with the faces on them are, like, past rulers of the Shokan, and you're being buried in the lava in the view of your ancestors, quote-unquote. Like, it's a big ceremonial thing.
So much thought went into it. You gotta appreciate it.
Yeah, the world building for the Shokan in Deadly Alliance, I really like it, because like this was really the point where the Shokan like got all those traits where now we compare them to the Klingons from Star Trek, whereas like
it's a society of honor and shit.
in 1 through 4, really, they didn't really have any fleshing out at all. They were just these big brutes, and that was it. All of the honor stuff comes from like that gold ending and Deadly Alliance.
It was hinted at a little bit in the novelization of the first movie, but
yeah, that's true.
It was those later games that took it and ran with it. Shame we get to see so little of it these days. Well,
yeah,
we got Shiva in 11 for that, but anyway. So Goro bites it. The last of Emperor Shao Kahn's armies have retreated, and that is okay. Kitana gets up to a lot of stuff here. It says in her second bio, after the last of Khan's armies like piss off, that's when all the undead soldiers start showing up under Shang Tsung and Quan Chi's banner.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Kitana retreats, and she's like, shit, Khan beat us. But while she's taking care of Goro's burial, that's when the Deadly Alliance takes out Khan and comes into power. And she kind of missed that transition and is caught by surprise. Now that Outworld is suddenly ruled by Quan Chi and Shang Tsung, and they have this army of mummies, it's unexpected, and she's trying to catch up with what's going on.
And all of her dead soldiers are being sucked off into Shang's Soulnado.
Yeah. You know, I feel like that is a really scary concept that neither 4 nor Deadly Alliance did enough with. The idea that when you're fighting a war against people who can bring back the dead, every soldier you lose increases the numbers of your enemies.
It's a horrifying thought to have if you're on the battlefield too, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, like, especially in, like, an open war where there's soldiers and armies and it's not just one-on-one martial arts fights to tell the story. You go out there with, like, 10,000 soldiers and a bunch, like, 2,000 of them drop, suddenly the enemy's 2,000 stronger, and you're fucked.
Yep. So more stuff happens to Kitana and Deadly Alliance, though. Quite a bit of it. And this is covered at length in the Conquest sections of the game.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm remembering right, I think it's Kung Lao that breaks the news to her.
Yeah. When Raiden brings the forces of good from Earthrealm into Outworld to basically avenge Liu Kang, and we must stop this Deadly Alliance. They all kind of split up to do their own thing before they attack the Deadly Alliance. Like, Kung Lao's plan is to find Bo Rai Cho and get some training because he doesn't think he's good at Gon Shang and avenge Liu. So he's like, I'm going to find the guy who trained Liu to beat Shang, and I'm going to learn some new moves, and then I'm going to get that guy. And on the way there, he catches up to Kitana and tells her, by the way, your boyfriend's dead.
Just the worst week ever for the princess, really.
Yeah. So Kung Lao and Kitana go together to train with Bo Rai Cho. But Kitana doesn't stay for long because the whole drunken master thing grosses her out, and she's like, oh, this guy is wasting my time.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm not learning how to throw up. That's too grody for a princess of my stature.
Although I always wondered if the pretty kick move was supposed to be a Bo Rai Cho taught move, because it seems like every move that he teaches people is some kind of flying kick.
The guy does do enough of them.
Because that's what, I mean, he taught Liu Kang the flying dragon kick, and in Deadly Alliance he teaches Kung Lao the whirlwind kick, which is a version of the bike kick where you do a barrel roll.
I actually want to break in and say something here very briefly, specifically about the fact that Bo Rai Cho kind of grosses Kitana out. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I think he throws up on her shoes while they're training.
Something like that, yeah. Like, I mean, obviously that is a natural reaction for anyone to have, but I appreciate that because it gives us a little bit of insight into, like, how serious Kitana takes her stature as a princess. Because I've always felt that if Kitana ever had one problem, one ongoing problem throughout all the games, all media, really, it's that we've never really gotten to know the person behind the princess.
I think, there's along these lines a trait that they give her in the NRS games.
It's gotten better
It's
as of
kind
late.
of very egotistical and snooty and sort of like, how dare you talk to a princess that way?
I think it was always kind of there, but I appreciate any more insights into her personality that I can get.
I feel like that's taking it too far, especially in 9. She comes off kind of unlikable and like.
I just wouldn't count 9 for anything as far as like characters go for much of it.
Yeah,
really.
I just
it's
think
not the best place to look at, for example.
I think it's a similar trait that she has in Deadly Alliance, but it's not the same trait. It's more like
9 does a bit of a job in making characters kind of oversimplifications of themselves.
Well, I think what baffles me is, particularly in both Lu and Kitana's cases, the attempt to give them character flaws and make them more three-dimensional only resulted in giving them flaws that made them unlikable people. Like, I don't think Brian Chard had the nuance necessary, or maybe just wasn't a fan enough of Lu and Kitana and wanted to push them to the back burner and focus on other characters, that he didn't take the time to see that the way he was writing them wasn't fucking heroic. And I think, so to me, the difference between like Deadly Alliance Kitana being grossed out by Bo and the way Kitana acts in 9 is that MK9 Kitana is like arrogant and haughty, and she's like the traits she's displaying represent a person who's grown up as a quote-unquote princess in like sort of the Disney style. Like, she's kind of stuck up the way Jasmine is in Aladdin, but more so because Jasmine was still likable. But I think like the picture that paints is this idea that Kitana would have grown up like having royal balls and learning, table etiquette and
I don't think that
all the like stuck-up princessy things we think of when we think of like medieval royalty.
I think it's a matter of like, she does come from a position of privilege even during her years in under Shao Kahn's like tutelage or in his court. So while it may not have been balls and stuff, because I don't think that shit happens in Outworld.
Well, no, that's kind of my point, but it's even more than that. Like, the idea that you would call Kitana's childhood privileged bothers me, because I strongly believe that Shao Kahn didn't call his daughters princesses. He didn't treat them as though they were royalty. He didn't teach them to treat themselves as royalty. He taught them to look at themselves as slaves who kill for him. They were pure warriors.
Well, that's from his perspective. She has also obviously lived a life where she's grown to be feared. And that can get to your head no matter what kind of person you are deep down inside. So I can see some of the haughtiness. I can see a little bit of a privileged aspect to her.
The way I imagine old timeline Kitana isn't stuck up. She just takes herself really seriously.
Stuck up's not the right word for it, but there's a certain sense of...
When you look at someone like Bo Raicho and the way he fights, and what's especially always kind of amused me is how bad his track record is as a teacher. Like, everybody thinks of him as the guy who taught Liu Kang, so he must be great. He's trained 20 tournaments worth of guys, and only 2 of them ever won.
No wonder he took to drinking.
Yeah, Kung Lao didn't even win after he taught him that fancy whirlwind kick. I don't think he's actually a good teacher. I don't know that he's a great martial artist just because he invented drunken boxing. Maybe he's actually kind of the slob that he appears to be.
Maybe.
And I think maybe Kitana was seeing. She was seeing this guy whose fighting style makes him look like a clown, and she was going, this guy is a fucking clown, what can I learn from him? I think that's what that scene is really about.
Even so, like, I would like to believe that, she would be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, but the fact that even if she doesn't kind of tells me something.
Although,
and it's not a
I mean,
particularly great character trait, but it's something, and like that's what I'm getting at. It's just, I wish I had a little bit of something, She strikes me as the kind of person who would admire horses. I don't know why, but I think she just would, I wish I knew a little bit more about her likes and her dislikes. What does she enjoy? What does she do as a pastime when she's not murdering people,
The words that come to mind when I picture like old timeline Kitana and I think of the personality traits I imagine, I'm thinking of words like elegant, very just someone who's Kitana's backstory has a lot of like trauma and tragedy, and she's been forced to kill a lot of people. She has a great deal of blood on her hands. So I tend to think of her as someone who doesn't have a sense of humor and doesn't really have time, because if she didn't always focus all of her energy on like doing whatever mission she gives herself, like I must stop Shao Kahn, I must right this injustice, I must do what's best for my people. If she ever takes a moment to try and like stop and smell the roses or to enjoy her life, she'd probably just start crying.
You know what I think? I'm gonna just describe her something right now, purely based on her MK2 friendship. I think she's secretly one of the greatest chefs in Shao Kahn's castle. She doesn't want to show it off, but she's a damn fine pastry chef.
You know what? I'm okay with her baking cakes being canon.
She's using these fans and these knives to slice up people. Maybe one day she goes, I want to do something with these. That's not carving people up. I want to carve up some hors d'oeuvres, some pastries.
I think that Scorpion needs to have her on his cooking show.
She could teach him a thing or two about shopping.
It's interesting because, there's all those joke pictures in the Deadly Alliance crypt.
Yeah, she likes golf, apparently.
Yeah, apparently her and Goro play golf together.
You know what? I like it. I love it. In a version of the original timeline that had panned out and everyone was able to retire because it was a new era of peace, that is what she would do in her retirement years. Just takes the golf cart out every now and then.
Well, it's not just that she likes golf, it's that Goro likes golf.
He might be her caddy. He might be her caddy.
It seems like too slow and quiet and boring of a sport for a guy like him. Maybe he appreciates the dexterity necessary to swing the club.
Although I find this exercise dignified, I must say, you got quite an eagle on that last hole. Alright. So, back to seriousness. So, Kitana and Kung Lao have their little odyssey. They spend a bit of time with Bo Raicho. Katana's not a fan. Oh god, I told myself I was gonna go...
quits the training because she doesn't want puke on her high heels.
I told myself I was gonna go this entire fucking thing without inadvertently mentioning the word fan out of context. Especially not in puns, and I've just gone and fucked it all up. Fuck.
I mean, it wasn't intended, clearly.
Subliminal shit, man. So the training doesn't go all that well.
Not for her. She bails. Kung Lao finishes it. I'm not sure what she did while she was waiting for him to get done, because they do go to the palace, like the heroes all assemble together for the final battle. Except for Sub-Zero. He was on his way, and then Frost was a bitch and he had to bury her.
Speaking of fucking odysseys. So they do rendezvous with the other heroes at some point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they meet up at the front gates at Lee May's village where the palace has been built. Probably wasn't hard to find on account of the giant column of souls shooting out of the roof.
All the zombie soldiers wandering about,
Yeah.
sky being the wrong color.
It is interesting. I had forgotten that there are references in the conquests that the mummy soldiers were actually being used.
Yeah.
Because you look at Deception, and it looks like that they're waiting until they finish the last one before they'll mobilize them. They're all just standing in the castle. And then they all get blown up when Raiden destroys himself trying to take out Onaga. And it always bummed me out that Onaga never got to use his mummies because the mummies were hyped up so much. But I guess the Deadly Alliance was using the mummies.
You know, I would like to think that maybe behind the scenes, he was, like he did to the slain heroes, resurrecting whatever he found and kind of rebuilding it from scratch, slowly but surely.
Well, so there's concept art in the Crypt of Deception that there was going to be a sub-boss, like a general mummy for Onaga to fight before you get to Onaga.
Oh, that would have been so nice.
His costume design, elements of it ended up being used on Havoc's alt, I think. He was going to have like a tabard that looks like a big spine. And that ended up kind of going on one of Havoc's costumes. But that always bummed me out that they didn't make the big mummy general. I thought that would have been a much better sub-boss than just fighting Noob Smoke.
I have to imagine that time constraints played some kind of factor. They usually do. Like, we do know that Noob and Smoke were initially going to be separate characters. Something happened. Deadlines probably happened.
Well, I think for me, it's just that Noob Smoke, they weren't working for Onaga, and I think the sub-boss should always be working for the boss. I feel kind of the same way about Goro being the sub-boss in 4. Like, he's not working for Shinnok. It's just, they just picked him.
He's just kind of there, yeah. But anyway, Kitana.
Yeah.
So they have their meetup outside of the palace where everything is going horribly wrong. And they embark into battle. And Kung Lao and Katana...
It's not super clear because... So the Deadly Alliance conquests say that Kung Lao and Katana made it to a fight with Shang and Quan.
I think that what happened was that they got there, they all grouped up, they got there, and the rest of the heroes kind of held off the undead army and whatnot.
Well, what Deception tells us is that the Deadly Alliance had obviously all the Remnants army, including the Tarkatans, working for them.
Right.
So Baraka and the Tarkatans came rushing out of the palace, and it doesn't say whether they got all 5, Kung Lao, Katana, Sonya, Jackson, Johnny, or if they only got Sonya, Jackson, Johnny, and Lao and Katana did make it to the boss fight. We don't know for sure.
I'm pretty sure that I remember somewhere in those conquests as saying that.
Well, yeah, in like I said, in Deadly Alliance conquests, it says that they do make it to the boss fight, but in the opening of Deception, it only says that the heroes got taken out by the Tarkatans, and that Raiden is the one who fought.
I kind of squint both of those two together. It makes more sense to me, and it's much more grandiose and epic to actually have them go up against Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, only to have them both beaten by their adversaries.
Yeah, my personal preference would definitely be for Lao and Kitana to have died to Quan and Shang rather than dying to nameless NPCs.
That's the way it goes in my head.
But yeah, so those 5 heroes do fall in battle, leaving Raiden the only one left to take on the Deadly Alliance by himself. And we all can see how that goes in the Deception intro. But when Onaga shows up, he sees all these bodies laid out on the front steps of the Deadly Alliance's palace, and he raises them from the dead, because that's a power he has. And he mind controls them into being his 5 bodyguards. which is the main reason that I hate the Revenant storyline in 9X and 11 is because Deception already fucking did it.
No argument there. But at least it gave us some cool-ish different looks for them, I suppose.
Well,
but her misery does not end there, because shortly
Katana
after
does
that...
get a different look as Onaga's bodyguard. Because whenever you see her in an ending, like any kind of cutscene in Deception, she's wearing a blue version of Mileena's outfit.
I would ascribe that more to just straight-up model reuse. Although I suppose it wouldn't hurt to imagine that he put her in a skimpy outfit because he's that kind of guy.
Well, I mean, because Johnny and Jax and Sonya and Kung Lao are still their Deadly Alliance models. They could have used Katana's Deadly Alliance model. In fact, when Unchained came out and they made Katana playable, it's her Deadly Alliance model. She's not Blue Mileena anymore.
See? Model use. That's all there was to it.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea that Onaga forced her to dress like her twin sister again.
Oh, God. Katana dressing like Mileena. What a world. What a
right?
world.
You tend to think of it as though Mileena's the one who dresses like Katana, right?
It's what she does in Deception.
So no, I want her to copy me for a change. Although, like, that's the thing. Like, Mileena goes to the Edenians posing as Kitana, and she's wearing that pink outfit with the veil that you can see her teeth through. And all the Edenians are like, yeah, that's how Katana dresses. That's Katana. What?
Remember when Smoke saw, like, Katana and thought it was a Mileena?
I do remember that.
I'm just going to go ahead and just surmise that the average perceptibility in the MK universe is not a very good one. People just straight up have difficulty telling them apart, which I guess is how it should be.
Smoke might be color, like, Smoke is black and white. Maybe he is colorblind.
Maybe he just has difficulty seeing through all the fucking smoke he's constantly emanating. Maybe his life just really sucks. Constantly. Well, we know it does.
He might just not be a smart man.
Okay. So into Deception, since that's where we are.
So Kitana is forced to not just be Onaga's bodyguard, but Onaga has Tanya lead him to Edenia because he's looking for ancient texts that will tell him how to combine the 6 Kamidogus into one and give him ultimate power. And Tanya believes that the documents that tell how to do this are something that Shao Kahn had, and that those documents ended up in Edenia when the realms were unmerged. So they invade Edenia, and they throw Sindel in the dungeon, and they make Kitana guard the dungeon because Sindel can't bring herself to beat up her own daughter.
She's probably also too busy struggling with the worst case of deja vu ever.
Yeah, right? How many times now?
Oh, my realm is being invaded and I'm being thrown into a cell. Must be Tuesday.
And it's Tanya again.
Hi! You yellow bitch.
Didn't we just do this 2 years ago? So Sindel can't bring herself to hurt her daughter, but Jade doesn't mind bonking her over the back of the head.
What are friends for? Right? She's so underappreciated. I love her.
So Jade breaks Sindel out of the dungeon, and the two of them escape, and Sindel starts researching ways to defeat the Dragon King, while Jade starts planning ways to murder Tanya horribly.
She's probably been drafting battle plans for some time now.
Yeah. And then, so the things would seem to be that Onaga found the documents he was looking for, gathered up his bodyguards, and went back to Outworld. But when he got to the castle, he didn't have time to merge the Kamidogus because Shujinko and all of the heroes he had amassed, which included Sindel and Jade, I guess, were there waiting to kick his ass.
Yeah, I'm kind of running back and forward over that point in the chronology I'm building up. It's very sketchy. There's not a lot of details.
Yeah, I mean, we know
kind of have to really
went to Edenia to find the papers.
Yeah.
And they must have come home because they're beaten in Outworld. So they must have found the documents, and he just didn't have time to use them. Like, it would have been... I guess that's to make it more dramatic, like, he's on the verge of getting what he wants, and that's when the heroes show up to stop him. Like, it's a real ticking clock last-minute scenario thing.
All the more for the sake of drama.
Indeed. So the bodyguards are defeated by Ermac all by himself. Takes the 5 of them on at once and wins. And as he defeats each one, Liu Kang's ghost shows up to use ghost powers to break the mind control on them.
Aren't ghost powers handy?
Ghost powers seem pretty handy. You know, I guess it makes sense. Ghosts... I would describe the powers a ghost is supposed to have as psychic, telepathy, and telekinesis. I could see a ghost being able to break mind control.
I honestly, realistically, have no problem with it. This is the immortal champion of Mortal Kombat, who's always been at peace with himself, who's probably achieved higher levels of spirituality and calm and inner focus.
Yeah, I mean that's why he's able to. That's why he's able to be a ghost in the first place instead of going to heaven like he's supposed to. His strength of will and spirituality.
Right? And now he's dead. He's a ghost, and he can really put the old whammy on you. I have no problems with it. Really,
I mean, before he showed up at the castle to help Ermac, he had helped Bo Raicho and the entire Edenian army. He had given them all a buff, fighting against the Tarkatans and defeating them.
What a guy.
Yeah. So he does a lot of stuff for a character who's not technically in the game. I mean, his zombie body is in the game. Ghost Liu was supposed to be playable. He's the only version of Liu that has a new costume.
You can do it with a Game Shark.
That's true. That's true. You can fight Ghost Liu in Conquest mode. Shujinko can train with him and learn his moves. Like, he has his own training section.
So what do you mean about this whole cutting room floor thing? It's painful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But
so anyway, Kitana is freed by Liu. You know, they reunite, although one of them no longer has skin. I guess they can touch, because in the picture she's holding his hands.
Maybe they're just trying really hard.
Yeah, maybe they're pretending.
It's sadder that way. That's probably what happened.
But yeah, they all go on to follow Shujinko into the throne room and lend him their powers so that he can beat the Onaga out of Reptile.
And they are successful. Shujinko ultimately, as we know, draws all the power and in one smashing
gives him the rainbow punches.
Nightwolf does it too. He sucks his soul down into the Netherrealm. Roughly, I'm guessing at the same time.
Yeah.
Shujinko probably makes it much easier.
Like, it seems like the plot suggests that if it was Shujinko by himself, he would have killed Onaga, and then Havoc would have been able to eat Onaga's heart and gain his resurrection powers. But Shujinko never got to land the killing blow because Nightwolf pulled the soul out of Reptile and turned him back into Reptile. So no heart for Havoc to eat. Womp womp.
He was probably happy, actually. This is not what I expected at all. Chaos reigns.
Yeah. You caught me by surprise. That's a good one.
Who wants
well
ice
played.
cream? I want ice cream now. Let's get ice cream. Runs to the beetle lair, starts scooping up beetles into a cone.
I mean, to be fair, if there had been a corpse, Havoc still wouldn't have gotten to eat the heart. Cabal would have killed him to get the heart instead. And if that had happened, he would have been like, "Good one, Cabal, you got me. I'm proud of you."
Can't keep a good Chaos Realm abomination down.
So Kitana gets to, I guess, watch the fireworks. Just kind of same as all the other heroes who aren't Shujinko. They just let him take the fight. And then they all go home.
And all is well for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so on the way home, Kitana runs into Blaze.
This is according to Unchained.
Yes, this is the PSP's contribution to the Deception storyline.
Which I actually...
Bridge the gaps between MKD and the Armageddon plot.
And I think it's actually really necessary, and I enjoy it.
In some cases, yes. I mean, for example, there were some plot holes in Armageddon Conquest before Unchained came out. Like, why is Frost's giant block of ice and all these Cryomancer tombs now part of the Lin Kuei headquarters? How did it get on Earth? So they put Frost in Unchained, and they explained, well, actually, she got out of the ice and she walked home, and she tried to kill Sub-Zero, so now she's in another block of ice.
God. Sure, why not?
Twice.
So Katana runs into Blaze, a being made of fire, with an exclamation mark, as it says in the ending. Katana has apparently had a premonition of a looming conflict. And he tells her that she must unite the forces of good for a coming battle to preserve the realms. And it's at this point that you actually do get a bit of what Kitana is feeling. Because her reaction is just fall to her knees and cry, "When will it end?" Every victory leads to more conflict and greater adversaries. And it makes sense. She's fucking sick
She's
of
had a
all
rough couple of days.
She really has.
Goro dies, Liu Kang dies, she dies, she gets made a zombie slave.
Has to guard her mom, her best friend whacks her over the back of the head with a stick. She wakes up, lends all her power.
And now she's finding out that the end of the world is coming, and it's going to happen in her realm.
And Blaze just tells her, if all goes as planned, your enemies will be destroyed. Have a nice day. And he walks off into the forest.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that he tells Kitana to tell her friends to gather the forces of light, but she doesn't. Johnny Cage does, for separate reasons.
I think she just went home and had a nervous breakdown, really.
Well, what we find out, the only mention of what Kitana's doing in Armageddon comes in Nightwolf's bio.
Yes.
So we find out that since the end of Deception, she's been hanging out with the ghost of Liu Kang. And they realize that Liu Kang can't stay a ghost forever. Like, the afterlife is pulling on him to come to, get his eternal reward. And so they come to Nightwolf for help. They're like, hey, is there anything you can do for Liu to help him stick around? Because we don't want to be split up.
Just give us our time. Please, God.
And he's right. All right, well, the magic bond between you that's keeping him around, I'm going to transfer that to me so that he'll be with me while I'm researching how to help him.
Is that magic bond love? Maybe it is. That's how much Nightwolf loves.
I guess. So, and that's kind of the last of it.
Yeah, Katana's story in Armageddon is one of the more fragmented ones.
It always bothered me that Armageddon is about an event happening in Edenia. But the Edenian characters, like Kitana, Jade, and Sindel, the big ones, don't get any fucking story.
Most people who were in Deception didn't get a lot of it. Shujinko did, Noob Saibot got a little bit. Ugh.
I mean, there are little bits and pieces. because the bios are so long that they managed to not only tell the story of that character, but give a few bits to 2 or 3 other characters.
I felt that you could always tell that John Vogel knew he wasn't going to get all the way through every member of the cast.
Yeah.
So he tried to squeeze in as much as possible.
But he was never able to fill in for the Edenians or anybody from Sato or Chaos Realm.
Shit sucks.
Yeah.
And then they all marshaled under Johnny's forces, and they marched into battle, and then they all died. Good night.
I mean, before we put a bow on it, do you want to tell me what her Armageddon arcade ending says?
No, but I guess I'll do it anyway.
I mean, I already know, but...
okay, I'm clicking on
This was the beginning of the trend to give her Charlie's Angels endings, wasn't it?
I think it actually was the first time, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, absorbing the power of Blaze, Kitana attained a psychic connection with the Elder Gods and became their champion. To preserve the integrity of the realms, she formed an all-female fighting force whose members included Sindel, Jade, Sonya, and Li Mei. Together they laid waste to the forces of darkness and trapped them in the Netherrealm forever. Cue Charlie's Angels theme. Cut my fucking head off with a fan.
Yeah, that's crap.
Most of them Armageddon endings are. We know this.
We can't think of an ending that reflects her actual personality, so we'll just make her the avatar of feminism.
Not even feminism, man. Like, cliche...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like...
chicksploitation.
90s, early aughts girl power, more so than what we think of feminism as today.
Girls when I think of Katana. I really don't.
It's... I don't...
Anyway.
And then, of course, in 9, her arcade ending would be, she rehabilitates Mileena, and Katana, Mileena, and Jade are a team forever.
You know what?
They pose just like Charlie's Angels.
What is the fixation?
I don't get it. Like, was the...
Someone on the staff is just a really big fan. Maybe it's Ed.
So, I know that, like, obviously, the guys in charge over at NRS are older gentlemen, and they like to reference things from the 80s.
Clearly.
Wasn't Charlie's Angels the 70s or the 60s? Like, it's old by...
Yeah, it's around that.
It's old by old pop culture standards. And I know there was a remake with Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu and Drew Barrymore, but those movies are garbage.
I thought the first... Well, regardless of whatever you or I may think, I'm pretty sure I remember the first one being a pretty major box office smash.
I don't know why. We talked about this before. I don't understand the appeal of Cameron Diaz. Never have.
I liked her in The Mask when I was a kid.
Yeah, she looked good in that movie.
These movies aren't made for us. Let's just try not to judge them.
Right, but Mortal Kombat is. So I'd rather not have Charlie's Angels references because, like, I was born like a decade after that TV show was culturally relevant. And I'm pretty old.
Let's think happy thoughts now. Actually, I want to jump ahead. I'd actually like to jump ahead before we wrap things up and move Shaolin monks in DC.
Right.
And quickly mention a little footnote here from her MKX ending.
All right.
Because it's kind of a glimpse into the future of Armageddon that never was. And
that's
me,
true. That's true.
I
Her
really thought it was...
ending kind of cuts back into the old timeline, sort of.
I was really hoping that it might have been the start of something. At last I was disappointed, but yeah. So her X ending says that... She finds herself walking the streets of a magnificent, shining city, Edenia, a realm freed from Outworld, and her as its queen. This is the timeline unaltered by Raiden. Earthrealm is destroyed by Khan, but Kitana survives Armageddon and unites the other realms to destroy him.
Yeah, so the idea is if Raiden hadn't pulled his he must win bullshit, Kitana was actually still alive, although I think we see her corpse in the 9 intro.
Maybe.
So she was theoretically still alive, and there were other survivors, and it wasn't actually the end of the world. Khan would have killed Raiden, and then, quote-unquote, destroyed Earthrealm somehow, but the survivors would have defeated him in the end.
The caveat to this ending is, though, that it's a vision that she has while she's in the Netherrealm.
Yeah, and it shows Revenant Katana being given this vision by a glowing blue version of Jade. And remember that Jade wasn't in X. She wasn't one of the Revenants. She's the only character who died in 9 who isn't a Revenant in X. Specifically because they were referencing the Dream Lady from Jade's ending in 9.
And
Like, the idea was, yeah, Jade died and was among the Revenants, but Dream Lady saved her and possessed her, and is now gathering allies by showing them what things would have been like if Raiden hadn't fucked up the timeline.
And so 11 was born out of this.
Except badly, because they didn't actually use Dream Lady or Jade. They made up a new character.
Much to my dismay. Finishing off the last of my wine. So, that's it for the original timeline as we know it.
So, Kitana's role in Shaolin Monks is an interesting interpretation of splitting the difference somewhere between MK2 and Malibu. Except if the dialogue were written by a man whose hands are made of ham.
Be the meat. Be it.
The first time you see Kitana is a little cutscene when you first arrive at the evil monastery, the MK2 tower stage level of the game. She's standing at the front door when you show up, and she's like, in the worst acted voice, just the worst, like Resident Evil 1 levels of voice acting.
Oh,
she's like, "Come, heroes, follow me to damnation, mwahaha," or something like that.
Yeah, that was it. Jesus.
And then she runs off up the tower, and you're supposed to go after her. And Liu Kang and Kung Lao are like, who's that asshole? And Raiden's like, actually, she's an ally. Figure it out. Like, fucking what?
Have I mentioned that, like, Shaolin Monks really kind of feels sometimes like it's an episode of Defenders of the Realm, but written on acid?
That's, yeah, that's about right. You know what? No, it's not Defender. It's more like it's like The Journey Begins on acid.
Oh, bless it and all its faults.
So you go up the tower, you play through the level, and when you get to the roof, you have a fight with Kitana, where she says some more very clichédly evil, "I'm going to kill you, mwahaha," villain dialogue, and knocks Liu Kang on his ass with a fan lift. And Liu Kang, sitting on his butt, looks up at her and goes, "Who are you? You're beautiful."
I'm watching it right now. You said it almost exactly as he did. I'd also like to point out that the way her wrists move those fans around is not elegant.
No.
She's just kind of like twisting them back and forth. Like some sort of weird and like bad interpretive dance.
Yeah, that's about right.
Also, looking at it now, two things. I actually like her Shaolin Monks outfit.
I love her Sheldon Monk's outfit. It might be it's one of my favorites. I don't know if it's the top of the list, but it's definitely close.
It's stylish. And number two, holy shit, did they give her a gigantic rack.
Yeah, they did.
Like, honestly, I'm not even saying it just because the outfit's especially skimpy, but
Her breasts are like 75% of her torso.
pretty much.
At least the in-game model. The cutscene model was more modest. More proportional, I should say.
Anyway.
But yeah, the in-game polygons are largely a pair of arms and legs attached to some boobs.
I'm watching the boss fight now, actually, as we speak, and she's actually doing some pretty cool stuff with her fans there. She's doing, like, a bunch of forward flip spins. She's twirling the fans around her in place. There's a lot of, like, ancestry to some of the stuff she's doing in a...
Yeah, she does have the fan orbit move in Shaolin Monks. They also gave her a fairly generic ground pound, but that's fine, whatever. So yeah, you beat her, and she gets up and runs away through a portal, and she's like, "Follow me if you dare. I'm still gonna kill you, mwahaha." And you follow her through, and Mileena and Jade show up, and it becomes a boss fight against all three of them at once.
And all 6 of their enormous breasts. This is not just a
Indeed.
Katana problem.
So the weird and interesting thing about this boss fight is that you're really mostly fighting Mileena and Jade, while Kitana has been knocked into a weird magic bubble that for some reason, if you... So, like...
There's a gargoyle off to the side. No, there's two
there's
floating
two
gargoyles off
There's
to the
these,
side.
like, flying monsters that are holding up the platform you're fighting on. They're, like, chained to it and flapping their wings, and you're, like, way up in the air. And while you're fighting, you'll be fighting Mileena, and Jade will be trying to run and get to this platform with controls on it that controls the bubble that Kitana's trapped in. And they're trying to break her out of that bubble, and you have to keep knocking them away and stopping them until the bubble does its thing. And the thing that it does is apparently break the mind control that Shao Kahn has put on Kitana to make her be this clichéedly evil.
Oh, what the hell.
And so when the bubble does its work, which I don't know why this exists. So Shao Kahn put the spell on her, but he also created a place where the spell could be broken.
Outworld doesn't follow our norms of logic, Razor. I guess everything needs an
very
off
much
switch.
This needs to happen because video game.
It's the off switch. Everything needs an off switch. Shut up and enjoy the fight.
So the bubble does its work, and it knocks Kitana out, and you have to finish off Mileena and Jade. And at the end of this fight, it is mandatory that you do a fatality, and the fatality is that you steal Mileena's size and stab Jade's eyes out, and she's fucking dead.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm watching it now. And 1 and 2. Jesus Christ.
And so Mileena's knocked out, and Jade is fucking dead. And the cutscene that follows is Kitana wakes up, and she's kind of like in Liu Kang's arms, and she's like, "Wait, what happened?" And then she sees Jade is dead, and she's like, "You killed my best friend. I'll fucking kill you." And Liu's just like, "I'm sorry, it couldn't be helped."
Jade? You killed her. She was my best friend, and you killed her! Don't touch me! I should destroy you for killing Jade!
She tried to kill us. I am sorry.
And then Kitana takes a moment to, like, realize what's going on, because she's just been broken out of brainwashing, and she's like... They wake Mileena up, and Mileena says, "Yeah, Kitana was turning on our father, Shao Kahn, because she found out that he's not really her dad. So he put a spell on her, and we were supposed to, like, make sure the spell wasn't broken."
I'd also like to point out that there's a brief segment here where Kugel lifts Mileena's veil while she's on the ground, and he's like, ugh, oh god, no.
Yeah, like, he makes a, "oh, that smells terrible" kind of gesture with his hand, like her breath is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So then like Mileena like kicks them and runs through a portal and escapes. And Kitana's like, I have to go after her. She'll tell Shao Kahn I'm free, and chases her off. And you don't see her until like, you don't see Kitana again until late in the game. Where so throughout the plot of Shaolin Monks, you are killing MK2 main characters at random because Raiden tells you to. And Raiden is actually Shang Tsung in disguise. And he's making you do this so he can steal their souls and get stronger. But he's telling you that for every person you kill, you're winning a quote-unquote tournament match. And that when you win enough of the tournament, you'll go fight Shao Kahn and stop Outworld from ever conquering Earth.
That certainly is a way to interpret the MK2 plot.
It's a choice.
She's got really bright eyeshadow. It's very blue.
Yeah, I actually kind of like how heavy the makeup is on them in Shaolin Monks. I think that's like a distinctive part of those Shaolin Monks outfits is the heavy eyeshadow. So the next time you see Katana, you have won almost all of the tournament medallions that you need to get to the arena stage and actually like see Shao Kahn and shit.
You can't hear it, but I'm making jerk-off motions.
So you get to this area that leads to the armory. And when you arrive, you find Kitana is still chasing Mileena. And they have a bit of a go at each other, and then one runs off and the other goes after her again. And it's just kind of Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner. And you can play the rest of the game and never see Katana and Mileena again, except that you see Katana at the very ending. Or you can go back to the Living Forest.
I remember that you fight Mileena there.
Area where you're running through like tree houses and bridges in the treetops.
Always thought that was really cool.
Yeah, actually. But when you get to the end of this area, you have a boss fight with Mileena. The only thing is, once again, this boss fight ends with Mileena getting away and Katana chasing after her. You fight Mileena multiple times, and she's the only character in the game, the only bad guy from MK2 who you don't horribly murder. But in the canon version of MK2, she's the only one who does canon die.
It's always frustrated me.
It's so weird.
I think like 3 months after Shaolin Monks came out, I just decided, no, it's not worth my time thinking about the story. Just enjoy the pretty sights.
No, yeah, like that's the thing. Shaolin Monks has amazing gameplay. The stages are beautiful. It's the most fully realized version of like Outworld as a place you can explore and run around in, where like locations connect to each other geographically. It's amazing in that sense. But the story, the dialogue, the cutscenes are so goddamn clown shoes.
It's like shit you'd find in the worst issues of Marvel Comics Presents. Just terrible.
It is objectively the worst written script of any MK game, other than maybe Special Forces.
I don't honestly. I don't think so.
I don't
really don't
dislike it as much as I like the story of MK9, but it is objectively worse written. Just because the dialogue is so cheesy and bad.
It's quite a trip going through it now. It does not hold. It didn't hold up then. It is just
no.
It's parody material.
It holds up because it wasn't good when it came out.
Nope.
Almost immediately after the game was released, they were doing
a Q&A
the developers
session.
were doing what they called the Fight Night, which was they'd get on IRL chat or IRC chat, and they'd answer questions from Mortal Kombat Online posters. And they had so many questions in the 2 chats they gave about how anything can be canon in this game, that they pretty much immediately had to declare Shaolin Monks was a non-canon game.
Pretty much from the beginning.
Like, right away, like the month of launch.
I wonder if they were expecting it all. I really do.
I don't think they knew what the content of the game... I don't think they really did a proofread. Because Shaolin Monks wasn't written by any of the members of the Chicago team. It supposedly John Vogel consulted on it, but the actual script was written by comic book writer Jim Kruger. He was, he was working freelance. He was hired from outside because the justification they gave for hiring this man when they were in the pre-release hype up before the game came out was they said, our game has been written by a guy from comics, and we got him because since he comes from comics, he has experience working with things that have continuity.
I remember reading that and being so happy. I had so much to look forward to.
Well, here's the rub. Jim Kruger's never actually worked on a canon book. His most famous work is one of those Alex Ross painted books, which take place in their own universe.
Nice work if you can get it. No, like, I distinctly remember that everyone was so excited because finally we're gonna, like, play Mortal Kombat 2, the story, beginning to end. We're all assuming, we're gonna get to see Baraka murder Liu Kang's fellow countryman. We're gonna, like, see, Sub-Zero and all that, and Jesus, the way it panned out.
You know what? We didn't.
Nope. We got Inferno Scorpion and Scorpion cursing, and a bunch of cool character designs and a wonderful first.
Yeah, Scorpion says bitch and fuck now.
Yep.
That's cool, right?
Wonderful game to play.
Bad language.
Wonderful game to play. Just turn your brain off. Take in the pretty sights and sounds.
Yeah, no, again, amazing game to play. Fucking love the gameplay. I think Shaolin Monks is my favorite game that has Mortal Kombat in the title when it comes to button pressing.
Beautiful soundtrack too.
Better than I like fighting games. I would kill for another Shaolin Monks style beat 'em up.
Love the soundtrack. Very atmospheric. Wonderful takes on the MK2 theme music. It's great.
But the cutscenes deserve a Razzie Award.
Yep.
Well, there is one little finish up. So Kitana shows up at the very end of the game. You finally make it to Shao Kahn's arena, and you find that she's behind bars in a cell. Apparently, Mileena got away and told on her, and she got caught. And so you march out into the arena, and you have your boss fights. At the end of the game, Shao Kahn dies. And Raiden and Kitana have been free, and Johnny Cage, they've all been freed somehow off screen. You know what? I know how they were freed. Okay, so Johnny and Kitana are behind bars, right? And when you get to the arena, Raiden, the real Raiden, finally shows up, and he's not behind bars. He just walks in and he's like, "You guys need to listen to me. Shang Tsung has been tricking you." And then Khan knocks him out, and is like, if you want to know what's going on around here and you want to finally settle this, come out to the arena and face me. And they just leave Raiden lying knocked out.
What were you doing this entire time? No, you've got this all wrong. Listen to me, you've got a clonk is left there.
So they just leave Raiden laid out. And they walk out to the arena and they have their fights. So obviously Raiden just woke up and let Kitana and Johnny out, and they walk out to join them.
Magnificent. It's all better now.
So they're all like, so who won? Was it Liu Kang Lao? Because the whole game they've been rivals over like who's better a fighter. And they have this moment where Kung Lao goes, Liu Kang won. And Liu Kang goes, no, Kung Lao won. And they're, being gracious to each other and being friends again. And then Kitana walks up, and Liu gets all romantic again, and the twinkly music starts to play, like the fucking cheesy Valentine's Day music. And there's a couple flirty lines. And then Johnny Cage ruins the moment, and he's like, "She's hot. Someone said she had a sister, right? Where's she at?"
Wah, wah. Oh, if only he knew.
And then they all walk off happily ever after. Dun dun dun. Because fucking Quan Chi finds Shinnok's amulet.
Let's not. This doesn't involve Katana. We're done here.
That's fair. That's fuck it. So that was Kitana's contribution to Shaolin monks. She exists primarily to fail at killing Mileena and to be flirted with just in the worst written way. Just the chemistry between her and Liu Kang is the worst I've ever goddamn seen.
At least he never kicked her in the butt, right? Right?
We'll get to that next episode, buddy. I got some words for that scene.
I'll stock up on Hooch. So MKDC. I want to get into
Kitana,
it just by like talking about her outfit.
Kitana's outfit is so weird to me because it almost looks like if you were to cut sections off of a Mass Effect armor to make it look sexy, except that Mass Effect armor is made completely out of leather, which is just weird. Like, it's such an odd design. It's got these, like, suspender-style stripes on it, and these weird, squares and ribbing that are all in, like, strange places.
It's almost sci-fi Mass Effect, but not quite. I feel like it would be better suited on a new character.
I don't think it looks good in any sense. Like, just because the places that the patches and the squares and the seams are in, it's all in places that don't make sense.
Maybe it's the colors.
It,
if you just
it looks
inverted
like
the colors,
an outfit
perhaps?
that should belong to someone from Chaos Realm.
I guess.
I don't understand it as a piece of clothing. It looks random and bizarre.
The thing I can't get over is just how light teal it seems to be. It's like it's almost
It
silvery.
almost looks like someone viewing the UMK3 Ninja Girl outfit through a kaleidoscope.
You know what? I could see this on like maybe Chameleon as like a take.
Maybe,
on
I
the
guess.
girls' outfits. The light teal patterns, like over the chest and down, like if they were green or light pale green, they could almost have kind of a reptilian talon look about them.
I don't know. I don't understand why, like, the suspendery shapes, the stripes coming down her breasts, split into like a U shape, and then just kind of stop in the middle of her outfit.
I think I like the outfit, but just not on Katana, you know?
Like, the only thing about it that is Katana-ish, other than the color scheme, is that her little cleavage window has an X across it, like, reminiscent of the laces from the UMK3 outfit.
I mean, even then, I don't think the color scheme is entirely her. It's too light.
No, it's that baby powder blue that we talked about before that is not the shade of blue she's supposed to be.
Go figure.
I
want to say that I remember more about her in this game, but
another distinctive thing about this design is her face. This is the first time in a very long time that her face hasn't been designed to look like Talisa Soto or someone of Soto's vaguely Hispanic-ish ethnicity. Like Mk4 Gold and the Deadly Alliance through Armageddon design, Kitana's face is very Soto-ish. She has like the particularly plump lips and sort of a more tan skin tone. And like the heavy eyeshadow and the very like just sultry, sexy lady eyes.
Honestly, she looks very Caucasian in MKDC.
Yeah, I would say that like she has very round, almost bugging out eyes in MK versus DC. It reminds me of. It feels like they were trying to make her look like Catalin Zamiar again, except she comes out kind of. Her head is too round and chubby looking.
Yeah, Catalin had a thinner face.
Yeah. But since Katana never takes her mask off in versus DC and all you get are the eyes, it feels like they were trying to do Catalin's eyes. And I miss the Talisa Soto look. To me, that's the definitive Katana, and it I've always spoken out against them changing the faces every game. I think the characters need a consistent look.
Likewise.
They need to pick something and stick with it.
I think this is the first time that she ever had sports.
Yeah, it's Jade's teleport from Deception. I think even in the moves list it's called Vanishing Winds.
No, it's called Mystical Teleportation.
Oh, is it?
She's also got Mileena's ball.
The animation is Vanishing Winds, though. It's the same teleport. So she has Jade's Deception teleport, and they gave her Mileena's ball roll.
Just, foreshadowing the future.
Yeah, it's definitely become a thing that when they want to give Katana new moves, they don't have any fucking ideas that fit Katana, so they just give her Mileena and Jade moves.
She's also got something here called Razor's Tip. Was that like a grab and like neck slash, I think?
I think so.
If so, that would be something that they carried forward up through MK11.
I don't remember exactly. It might have just been a slash with the fan. Like it might have been like her forward high punch in MK2.
Maybe.
Not sure.
In recent years, they do seem to have like made her like creeping up behind someone and like cutting them with a fan across the back or the neck, kind of a thing.
So it is worth pointing out, speaking of her having the Vanishing Winds teleport, she does it again in 9. She doesn't have it as a move, but they built it into her X-ray. And Jade didn't do it in 9, so it's almost like it permanently became Katana's move instead of Jade's.
Annoying.
Although I think Jade does it again in some of her animations in 11.
It's not a crushing blow, I think.
Just the motion of spinning to teleport, like spinning in a circle and disappearing in like flower petals, is like the visual effect.
Yeah, it's in the Fatal Blow.
Yeah. Yeah, Katana had that in 9 as part of her X-ray. So, as far as story goes, Katana is definitely a character that exists in the game.
Take it away, man. I don't remember any of this shit. I choose not to.
Katana was, I think, the only MK character who didn't get their own chapter? Or were there 2 of them?
Are we really qualified to be doing this section? I don't know if we are.
I think it's Katana and Baraka.
I know Baraka didn't have one. That I remember.
Yeah, Katana does not have her own chapter. I think at some point they said they were going to give her one, and it ended up on cutting room floor because they just didn't have the time and resources. Katana's chapter would have been about her traveling to Outworld and seeing that it had become merged with Apocalypse. And I don't know who she would have fought for her 4 fights. There always has to be 4 fights. But it would have actually shown us the Outworld Apocalypse merger sooner than we see it in the final version of the game.
Shrug.
But it would have actually given her something to do, because the existing plot that she has is that, so she shows up at the very beginning at the Shaolin Temple where Liu Kang is meditating, and she's trying to sneak up on him, and he he sort of, with his eyes closed, smiles like he knows she's there, and then she runs at him and he fucking arm tosses her, and he's like, and they compliment each other on their training, is like, haha, I sensed you, and I am always at the top of my game because I'm Shaolin and we, chi and stuff. And she's like, good work. And it's vaguely flirty. Like, it's definitely supposed to capture that post Mk4, he has helped her defeat Shao Kahn, and now the two of them have a thing kind of and meet up once in a while sort of thing. But it's like the dialogue is not overtly romantic. They're just kind of play sparring because they're friends. And then she tells him people have been disappearing, and he's like, yeah, people have been disappearing on Earthrealm too. I'm going to meet up with Sonya and Raiden, and we're going to figure it out. And she's like, okay, get back to me, and takes off. And you don't see her again until the middle of the game, where being in Outworld Apocalypse and running in a DarkCon has driven her mad with the rage. And she is so unable to be knocked out of it. Like every other character in the game, when they get the rage, it's temporary and you beat them up and they're back to normal. But Kitana got like too close to DarkCon, was too exposed. So she's just completely a wild person, and Quan Chi has to place her under mind control to keep her docile so she won't fight everybody. And so she spends like a whole chapter of the game following him like under hypnosis, like just kind of staring off dead into space.
It keeps happening again and again.
If you were to ask me how I would describe the way this game treats Kitana, like what my feeling of it is, I would say MK versus DC Kitana is not treated as a character. She's a real doll.
Seems accurate.
Yeah, she's just kind of like a sexy robot who follows Quan Chi around for a significant portion of the game, and it's really creeping me out. I'm not comfortable with this.
So let's just finish this off by talking about her arcade ending, because I don't think this game bears discussing.
Yeah, actually, I like her arcade ending. I think her arcade ending is something that should happen in canon, and we talked about this in the Patron cast about what we would do if Armageddon had sequels. So in Kitana's arcade ending, her and the refugees of Edenia, because this is a continuity where Edenia isn't free from Outworld. It's just after Shao Kahn is defeated, the Edenians decide to leave, and they settle Shang Tsung's island on Earthrealm.
It's their own little Themyscira.
Yeah, they rename it Argus Island, and in the picture, all of the Edenian rebels that we see that Kitana is leading are female. So the idea is that, like, in every ending in MK vs. DC, the MK characters become more like a DC character, the DC characters become more like an MK character. Kitana is becoming more like Wonder Woman.
Precisely.
And I think if you just cut off the all-female, the Wonder Woman stuff, I really like the idea of the Edenians moving to Earthrealm and taking over Shang's island, because Shang isn't there anymore and he's not using it.
Think it's big enough to hold all those Edenians?
For one thing, as we've discussed over the course of this episode, when Edenia is its own place, the bad guys just keep fucking invading it and taking it over. That's all that ever happens there. So, if you just move the Edenians to Earthrealm, not only could they avoid constantly being kidnapped by the bad guys, but Kitana could live on the same planet Liu Kang does, and they could actually be a couple.
Would be nice.
That's my argument for that. I think that's that ending. I can't believe they had such a good idea and they wasted it on a fucking MKDC ending where it's a joke about how she's kind of like Wonder Woman.
Yep.
It bothers me. because that should be some fucking canon shit. That's good. It's good, and you fucking blew it.
Here's another little MK to DC line they drew here in this ending. Is that right behind Kitana, you've got what's obviously Jade wearing all green, and she's got a bow and arrow. Green bow and arrow. Artemis, anybody? You can also kind of see Tanya a little bit further on. At least I think it's her. She's wearing yellow.
In the little comic book that John Tobias came back to draw, that came with the collector's edition of the game. There's a scene where you see Katana with some of the Edenian rebels, and they all kind of they're all just kind of generic NPCs who look like Katana, Mileena, Jade, Tanya, in like multiple different colors. Like that's apparently the Edenian Resistance uniform in this fucking game. So I'm not even confidently sure that I would say those characters in the ending are Jade and Tanya just because they're wearing green and yellow. They could be fucking anybody.
I don't know about the one behind Katana.
It just seems like this game wants you to think that Katana has an army of people who dress just like her, but in every color of the rainbow.
I feel like the Jade parallel is pretty self-evident.
It could be. Well, how dark is her skin?
Squinting here, it could be a little darker than normal.
Yeah, I don't remember that person being dark enough for me to think it was Jade.
A little bit darker than the person next to Katana on the other side, who could literally be anyone.
And granted, this is starting with MK9. They couldn't make up their mind how brown Jade is supposed to be. Now, I will argue that Jade is consistently the same shade of brown in MK2, Ultimate, and Deception, that they actually did a good job with that in the old timeline.
I'd say she's a bit darker in Ultimate than she was in 2. But that's a story for another time.
I think MK2 Jade looks lighter because she has brown hair instead of black hair.
There's that.
But I think her skin is the right shade of brown.
I also don't think that palette swapping skin color was an exact science until 3.
No, I'm not saying necessarily that they deliberately kept it the same color. I think they coincidentally got lucky that they got the same shade of brown 3 times in a row.
I'll say there was definite consistency.
Starting with MK9, they started fucking up. So if that was supposed to be Jade in the DC ending, and that was actually the first time they fucked up her skin color, I could see it.
Maybe. I guess that's it for Katana for tonight.
Yeah, that's for the old timeline. Although technically MK versus DC and Shell and Monks are their own timelines, but that's how we do these episodes. It's everything before MK9 and it's everything after MK9.
Welcome to
It's really Midway versus NRS is how we do them.
Pretty well. At least divided between.
Yeah.
So, that said, thank you all for tuning in. But we're not done, as I'm sure you've seen by this point.
There's more to come. There is more that has come today.
Head on over to the other side. It's tasty. See you next time.
Shall we dance?
No! Not a fan of it.
I didn't catch it. See, I'm not naturally geared towards recognizing fucking puns.
I mean, I figured I broke it once, may as well just break it again. Alright. Enjoy the Mileena episode. Do it because we love you.
Later, nerds.